Chapter 44:22. That's right. Saint Ni is right, said the pentacolored seashell. The demon body is the #1 cultivation proof for the demon race. Saint Phoenix's demon body isn't inferior to Saint Peng's. Even if Saint Phoenix is defeated today, it's only a matter of time before he becomes the strongest of the demon race. The flying feather void beast smiled. Who is the strongest of the demon race isn't something we should be concerned about. It should be a matter for the two great sages, Saint Phoenix and Saint Dragon. They've been fighting for so many years, and now there's a 7-star Saint Phoenix. The great sage hall is getting more and more lively. AI. The pentacolored seashell sighed. That's right. There's going to be a great change in the 1,000 demon sacred realm. I wonder if there'll be an even greater bloodbath. That depends on Saint Phoenix's ambition. The flying feather void beast smiled. He only needs half of Saint Dragon's ambition. That's unlikely. The pentacolored seashell replied absent-mindedly. From the situation in Baiqingyu, Veiled Sky Ridge, and Ancient Bell Mountain today, Saint Phoenix's heart doesn't seem to be here. That's right. That's what this saint finds most strange. The flying feather void beast smiled. However, that was all he said. He paused for a moment and waited for the pentacolored seashell to continue. Unfortunately, the pentacolored seashell was preoccupied and didn't ask. The flying feather void beast thought for a moment and took the opportunity to ask, Saint Shell, you just said that the demon body is the #1 cultivation proof for the demon race. That seems a bit lacking, no? The five-colored sea god Bei was startled when he heard this. He asked indifferently, What do you mean, Saint Ni? From what this saint knows, bloodline should be the #1 cultivation proof for the demon race, right? The flying feather void beast smiled. His words were full of meaning. The pentacolored seashell smiled. There's a saying in the human race that the benevolent see benevolence and the wise see wisdom. I'm afraid that's what it means. Perhaps Saint Ni is right, perhaps this saint is right, or perhaps you and I are both right. Seeing that the pentacolored seashell didn't answer directly, the flying feather void beast's eyes turned. Earlier, the five-colored sea god shell had said that its bloodline had been taken away. The flying feather void beast was both shocked and confused. He was proficient in bloodline techniques, so he was naturally aware that ordinary bloodlines couldn't be stripped away. Even though Xiaohua was a grand ascension stage human cultivator, he didn't possess any powerful abilities. Therefore, he didn't believe the five-colored sea god seashell's words at all. He felt that the five-colored sea god seashell was trying to cover up something. Moreover, the seven-colored seashell's shell had been shattered by Xiaohua. If the five-colored seashell's bloodline had really been taken away, then the seven-colored seashell's bloodline could naturally be taken away as well. In that case, the situation of the entire 1,000 Devil Sacred Realm would fundamentally change. For the sake of the future arrangements, the flying feather void beast had to clarify the matter of the bloodline and how Xiaohua had defeated the old ancestor. The flying feather void beast pondered the situation for a moment before asking, By the way, Saint Bei, why did a streak of light suddenly appear after that grand ascension stage human cultivator was trapped by the old ancestor? Not only did the light disappear from the old ancestor's body, but even more light from the 1,000 Devil Sacred Realm fell into the light, and as the light began to flow, the phenomena created by the old ancestor's attacks gradually disappeared. The old ancestor's bonded shell was destroyed, and in the end, the grand ascension stage human cultivator managed to break free, but I wasn't able to identify what method he used in the end. Can you answer my question, Saint Bei? The five-colored sea god shell faltered slightly upon hearing this, and it glanced at the flying feather void beast with a hint of hesitation in its heart. Earlier, it had revealed that its bloodline had been taken away, and it had regretted it ever since. After hearing the flying feather void beast's probing, it made a slight mental calculation before replying in a wary manner, That's the old ancestor's business. How would I know if she didn't tell me? The flying feather void beast wasn't surprised by the five-colored sea god shell's answer in the slightest, and it continued in a seemingly nonchalant manner, By the way, I seem to have seen an ancient record in the Great Holy Hall about 70,000 years ago, right? The five-colored sea god shell asked in a cold voice. What do you mean by that, Saint Ni? It's nothing. The flying feather void beast hurriedly chuckled. After all, the five-colored light is Saint Bei's bonded ability, and even Saint Peng has praised it in the past. The sudden disappearance of the five-colored light has given me some ideas about the origins of that Grand Ascension Stage human cultivator and Saint Phoenix, so I wanted to have a chat with Saint Bei. Oh? What do you mean, Saint Ni? The five-colored sea god shell was rather perplexed. What's wrong with their origins? Of course it's wrong. The flying feather void beast wasn't surprised at all by the five-colored sea god shell's lack of response, and it smiled as it said, if it were just a human Grand Ascension Stage human cultivator, I wouldn't think too much about it. We didn't know that there was such a human cultivator on the hidden Immortal continent, so it's normal that we didn't know about it. However, don't forget that this human Grand Ascension Stage human cultivator is a Daoist cultivator. All of the Confucian cultivators on the hidden Immortal continent view the Daoist sects as venomous snakes and scorpions. How could there be a human Grand Ascension Stage human cultivator on the hidden Immortal continent? As far as I can remember, aside from the primordial chaos patriarch who stirred up chaos on the three continents, there doesn't seem to be any Daoist cultivator capable of such feats. That's true. The five-colored sea god shell nodded in response. I've already thought of that when I saw that human Grand Ascension Stage human cultivator. The five-colored sea god shell shuddered as it spoke, and it hurriedly exclaimed, there seems to be more than one human Grand Ascension Stage human cultivator, right? At the time, there were 36 human Grand Ascension Stage human cultivators who had besieged Saint Peng. That's right. The flying feather void beast couldn't help but scoff at the five-colored sea god shell's lack of awareness. However, it was quite happy to have such a slow-witted great sage as its ally. After all, this pig-like ally had a godlike patriarch backing it up. No, that's not all. The five-colored sea god seashell immediately thought of something else and exclaimed, that skinny guy has a desolate aura on him. He's also a 9th grade essence force. That strange cultivator who fought me possesses bloodline power and spatial power, and he's also at the 9th grade of origin force. What the fuck is going on the three continents? Why are there so many supreme cultivators appearing all of a sudden? Could it be that 9th grade origin force cultivators aren't worth anything anymore? Also, the flying feather void beast continued in a cold voice, after the patriarch's body was destroyed, there was a massive barrier of light to our left. After the barrier was destroyed, a devilish lord appeared, and his aura is even more powerful than the Pentaceratops. Oh, and there's also that so-called Wenxing. They're all at the mid-9th grade of origin force, and some of them are even at the high grade. I'm afraid that the old ancestor was defeated under their joint attack. Clear light flashed through the flying feather void beast's eyes as it spoke, and the five-colored sea god shell's body faintly appeared within the light. The flying feather void beast wanted to carefully inspect the five-colored sea god shell's reaction. Unfortunately, the flying feather void beast was destined to be disappointed as the five-colored sea god shell didn't show any signs of abnormality. The flying feather void beast replied, even a few 9th grade origin force cultivators wouldn't be able to defeat the patriarch. I know her, barrier the best. Have you forgotten, Sage Bei? Those 36 human Grand Ascension Stage beings. The flying feather void beast said coldly, they suddenly disappeared when the first Grand Ascension Stage human appeared. So what if they disappeared? The Kunlun mirror can't be used within the patriarch's barrier. The five-colored sea god shell said with disdain. Then how do you think the patriarch was defeated, Sage Bei? The flying feather void beast asked with a smile as it led the five-colored sea god shell into its trap step by step. The five-colored sea god shell stammered, I'm afraid only the patriarch knows. Of course, if the patriarch doesn't tell us how she was defeated, we wouldn't know either. The flying feather void beast said with a smile. Furthermore, Sage Feng wasn't within the barrier at the time, so he might not know. However, if I were to guess, an opponent even more powerful than the patriarch appeared, right? More powerful than the patriarch? The five-colored sea god shell's heart stirred, and it said, "The most powerful beings on the 3 continents are us. The patriarch has a secret technique, so she's different from us. How could she have? See, Sage and I, are you saying that this human grand ascension stage being also has a secret technique? How could a human like him possibly have such a secret technique? It's impossible for a human to have such a secret technique, but what about other races?" The flying feather void beast said with a smile, "Can't other races exist in this human's body?" The five-colored sea god shell's imagination ran wild, and it cried out, "You're saying that there's a race as mysterious as the patriarch in the human's body? It's unlikely that it's in the human's body." The flying feather void beast said with a smile, "After all, the human's body is weak, and a powerful race can't exist in the human's body for a long time. If it's possible, it should be the Kunlun mirror." Impossible. The five-colored sea god shell habitually denied it, but after saying it, he was dumbfounded and slapped himself in the face. "Oh yes. If there's a mysterious being more powerful than the patriarch, wouldn't he be able to come out of the Kunlun mirror?" Mysterious being? The flying feather void beast heard the five-colored sea god shell change the word race to mysterious being, and it sneered in its heart. It knew that the five-colored sea god shell had already fallen into its trap, so it went along with the five-colored sea god shell's words. "Yes, mysterious being. I once read an ancient record in the Great Sage Palace. It was about a demon called Xianxia, and the entire demon race was wiped out by a mysterious being." Speaking of this, the flying feather void beast looked at Qingguang again. Sure enough, although the five-colored sea god shell didn't move, the space around it rippled. The ripple was very weak, but it was still detected by the flying feather void beast, who was proficient in the power of space. Chapter 44-23. Zhen and I. As if trying to hide its emotions, the five-colored sea god seashell responded, and the ripples in space disappeared. It then fell into deep thought, and after a moment, said hesitantly, "I seem to have heard of it before. It seems to be an extremely powerful demon beast from ancient times, proficient in the power of space." "That's right." The flying feather void beast sneered coldly in his heart, but on the surface, he flattered, "Sage Bei is indeed knowledgeable. This Zhen Yu is an ancient record that this sage has searched for a long time before finding. I didn't expect Sage Bei to be so familiar with it. I wouldn't dare. I've only heard the ancestor mention it occasionally." The five-colored sea god seashell really did have some recollection of it after hearing the flying feather void beast's words. "I don't remember the details. To tell you the truth, when I became a great saint, I saw a strange monster in the sea of stars. It rejected my ascension to the great saint realm, and it felt like it was similar to my original name," the winged void beast said. "So, after I became a great saint, I searched through the ancient records of the great holy temple in an attempt to find the origin of this unknown great saint. Only then did I find the legend of Zhen Ni in the ancient records. According to the records, Zhen Ni was extremely powerful. Not only was its physical body comparable to metal and stone, but it could also control space as it wished. His abilities far surpass my flying feather void beast. Saint Bei, think about it. When I saw a demon that was so similar to my ability, and even more powerful than mine, how could I not trace its origin? How could I not find out why this powerful demon had disappeared for no reason? When this sage took a look, it was nothing serious, but it really gave me a shock." The flying feather Ni void beast sent a voice transmission with some lingering fear. The records clearly state that one day, the Zhenyong Grand Sage fought with another demon for some unknown reason. That demon was no match for the Zhenyong Grand Sage and was almost killed by the Zhenyong Grand Sage. However, the strange thing was that the Fae that was about to die suddenly transformed into a strange existence. This existence's appearance and true form could not be seen with the naked eye or with one's essence perception. Furthermore, the weather in the entire Thousand Fae sacred realm changed drastically. The clear sky turned into dark clouds as spatial vortexes filled the sky. That being used some unknown abhijna, and the Zhenxiong Grand Sage's physical body instantly withered. Furthermore, the blood-red light around his body flowed and turned into tiny fragments that fell into the hands of that being. Not only that, but the situation after that was similar to today. After the Zhenxiong Grand Sage's blood light dissipated into nothingness, the entire Thousand Demons' sacred realm was suffused with blood light. Countless amounts of blood light gathered in the hands of this being. At this point, the flying feather void beast stopped, and the five-colored sea god shell asked, and then? After that, the Zhenxiong Grand Sage disappeared, and so did that entity. The Zhenxiong lineage lost their spatial abhijna and gradually disappeared from the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The flying feather void beast's voice sounded distant, as if the Zhenxiong lineage had disappeared. Phew! The five-colored sea god shell heaved a sigh of relief and laughed. Thank you for your reminder, Saint Annette. However, the Zhenxiong Grand Sage's blood essence was probably absorbed by that being. The entire Zhenxiong lineage in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm seemed to have their blood essence sucked as well. It was different from today. Then, what was absorbed by the human Mahayana lineage today? The flying feather void beast seemed to ask casually. This time, the five-colored sea god shell did not answer directly. Instead, it paused for a moment before saying, You don't have to worry about it, Saint Annette. It's all right, Saint Bei. No matter what it is, I won't mention it again. The flying feather void beast saw the five-colored sea god shell's denial and already had a plan in its mind. It laughed. What I want to say is that you must have lost something, right? Also, the five-colored sea god shell lineage must have lost something similar, right? The five-colored sea god shell did not answer. It was actually very dejected. It could not afford to pursue this matter. There were many descendants of the shell race in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, so how could it not be leaked? Furthermore, it had mentioned it in a moment of absent-mindedness. Since Saint Bei isn't answering, I'll take it as a yes. The flying feather void beast finally voiced its conjecture. In other words, the being our ancestor encountered today is as terrifying as the being from before. Think about it. Does this human Mahayana lineage have the qualifications to do so? The seven-star Phoenix Sage said that he became a great sage in the Kunlun mirror of the human Mahayana lineage. What does that mean? It means that the terrifying being is in the Kunlun mirror of the human Mahayana lineage. Oh, Saint Bei, do you know the primordial chaos ancestor of the Daoist sect? I do, what about it? The five-colored sea god shell was completely unable to follow the flying feather void beast's train of thought. The primordial chaos ancestor was suppressed by the yin-yang illustration by the Confucian and Buddhist cultivators, and they wanted to use the illustration to kill him. However, the primordial chaos ancestor found a way to refine the yin-yang illustration, and it said that he attached his nascent soul to it. As long as the treasure isn't destroyed, he won't die. Do you think that the mysterious being in the Kunlun mirror also attached his nascent soul to the Kunlun immortal realm and used it to achieve immortality? Damn it, how am I supposed to know? The five-colored sea god shell was confused by the flying feather void beast's words. Saint Annette, what are you trying to say? What I mean is... The flying feather void beast smiled mysteriously and transmitted its voice. That human Mahayana lineage is just a cover. He's no match for our ancestor. In other words, those Mahayana lineages, the seven-star Phoenix Sage, Wen Chu, and the others are all subordinates of that mysterious being hiding in the Kunlun mirror. They're even like demon pets. Hiss. The five-colored sea god seashell turned pale with fright. He took a deep breath and stopped moving. His entire monster body appeared in the void as he shouted, How? How is this possible? After a short while, the flying feather void beast flew back from the distance, and it looked at the five-colored sea god shell with a smile. Most humans and demons on the three continents think that the most powerful being in the thousand-demon holy realm is the golden-winged Great Peng, but what about the truth? The six of us have more or less received guidance from our ancestor. If she doesn't care about fame and fortune, wouldn't she be just like that mysterious being? The five-colored sea god shell was silent for a long while before it finally muttered, I originally thought that the seven-star Phoenix Sage and Wen Chu might be the clones of that human Mahayana lineage, But I didn't think that Saint Ni's thoughts would be even more incredible. Saint Ni's thoughts are even more incredible. The flying feather void beast said with disdain. The Daoist sect does have cloning techniques, but it's not like we don't have them either. Saint Ni, don't tell me you haven't cultivated clones. But think about it, can you create so many clones? Furthermore, each clone is different. Some are Confucian cultivators, some are demonic cultivators, and there's even a devilish lord? Besides, how can clones be more powerful than the true body? Which clone isn't at a lower level of power? If you were to say that the dragon that was sealed was the clone of that human Mahayana lineage, then that would make sense. That's true. The five-colored sea god shell nodded before flying away again. Behind him, the flying feather void beast asked, Ancestor, do you have any instructions for Saint Bei? The five-colored sea god shell hesitated momentarily before replying, Our ancestor didn't say much, she only told me to follow her instructions. That's right. The flying feather void beast nodded. Our ancestor's bonded shell has been shattered, but think about it. When she was speaking to that human Mahayana lineage, she didn't sound very respectful at all. That's right. The five-colored sea god shell hurriedly replied, You're right, Saint Ni. Our ancestor didn't dare to say anything as she was afraid that we would offend that mysterious being. The flying feather void beast looked at the five-colored sea god shell with a meaningful expression. In that case, you should understand why I'm being so long-winded, right? The five-colored sea god shell was a little dejected. I've lost some of my abilities and I don't have any desire to win anymore. I have no intention of getting involved in the matters of the golden-winged great peng, the arcane pentaceratops, and the heaven-defying lightning phoenix. The flying feather void beast was a little exasperated, and it said, That's part of the reason, Saint Ni. The most important thing is still the Dragon Island or the Great Holy Hall. You have to decide which one you want to choose. The five-colored sea god shell was truly perplexed, and it turned to the flying feather void beast with a perplexed expression. Of course I'm going to choose the Great Holy Hall. What's the difference between the Dragon Island and the Great Holy Hall? Motherfucker. The flying feather void beast cursed internally. If it weren't for the ancestor, how could that bastard have become a great sage? With that brain of his. Oh, that's right, the five-colored sea god shell doesn't have a brain. The flying feather void beast could only curse internally. He still needed to form an alliance with the five-colored sea god shell, and he didn't dare to offend Bei Xian, so he patiently said, There's something strange about what happened today. The matter of suppressing the human Grand Ascension stage avatar was the ancestor's idea, and I also know a little about it, but Saint Peng doesn't. The sky-obscuring ridge is being used by other demon races. Don't you think that the demon race we don't know about is plotting something? I don't quite understand. The five-colored sea god shell nodded. Apart from the golden-winged great peng, it's most likely the arcane pentaceratops that want to obtain information about the dragon race. Those two great sages can both ascend by devouring dragons. From there, they can shatter the heavens. If the golden-winged great peng wasn't putting on a show today, then the arcane pentaceratops must be behind this. What does this have to do with the Dragon Island? If it were that simple, how could the arcane pentaceratops still be the arcane pentaceratops? The flying feather void beast said earnestly, The dragon sage and the rock sage have always been at loggerheads, neither willing to give in to the other. Even if the dragon sage wanted to do something, he wouldn't be so obvious. He'd definitely use other channels and wouldn't let us see any clues. So it can only be the Dragon Island. Chapter 44-24. What does this have to do with Dragon Island? The five-colored sea god seashell asked. You have the favor of the patriarch, so there's no need for you to think too much about this. The flying feather void beast sighed. However, I can't do that. The 9 elders of the 10 races of Dragon Island are all very conflicted. On top of that, Dragon Island seems to be unable to control the Dragon Palace. 200 years ago, a Dragon Master appeared on Dragon Island out of thin air. Will this Dragon Master be able to convince everyone? All of this could point the spearhead at the dragon that Peng Jun wants to interrogate. Even so, why should we choose between Dragon Island and the Great Holy Hall? The Pentaceratops has always been at odds with the Dragon Island and refused to obey the orders of the Dragon Island. Now that the Dragon Island has extended their claws into the Great Holy Palace and even set a trap for the Pentaceratops, do you think the Pentaceratops can do anything about it? The flying feather void beast mocked. On top of that, the golden rock was taught a lesson by that human grand ascension stage being. What can it do? The 7-star phoenix is an old friend of that human grand ascension stage being. What can it do? Hiss. The 5-colored sea god seashell was even more astonished. You're right, Saint and I. If the pentagram dragon and the golden rock are on the same side, then our Great Holy Hall and Dragon Island will really have to go to war. Of course not. Our Great Holy Hall has 7 great holy sages. Sparrow Saint and Spider Saint may not be willing. The flying feather void beast chuckled. Of course, we'll need Saint Bay's support. There's a mysterious being behind the 7-star phoenix. What choice do we have? The 5-colored sea god seashell countered. Indeed, Saint Bay, I and the patriarch know about this mysterious being. The flying feather void beast said in a mysterious manner. The other great holy sages don't know. Then, what if the Dragon Sage and Dragon Island aren't on the same side as Saint and I? Then Saint Bay should know what choice he should make. The 5-colored sea god seashell void beast chuckled. The flying feather void beast laughed and said, otherwise, this saint would have wasted my breath talking so much. If that's the case. Hearing this, the 5-colored sea god seashell suddenly felt enlightened. He said telepathically, the competition between the rock sage and the phoenix sage won't be that simple, right? Take a guess? The flying feather void beast smiled and flew into the distance. The 5-colored sea god seashell shook his head with a wry smile. He also flew into the air, but without the 5-colored halo he was much slower. Since even the 5-colored seashell had vaguely guessed the golden-winged rock's intention, how could Feng Wu not know? After flying over countless mountains in a single day and frightening countless great demons, the sun gradually set and colorful clouds filled the sky. The Phoenix Parasol General spread his wings and began to slow down. Sure enough, as soon as Phoenix Wu slowed down, the voice of the golden-winged great rock sounded. Phoenix Sage, the one-day limit is not up yet. Why aren't you flying? Feng Wu smiled and said, this saint's specialty isn't flying. How can I possibly be Rock Saint's match? It's fine if we just spar like this, but why must we decide the victor? The golden-winged great rock's flying figure also slowly came to a stop. When Feng Wu flew closer, he said, Phoenix Sage, you're too modest. These words really make this saint feel ashamed. Flying is not Phoenix Sage's specialty, but this saint hasn't surpassed you by much in just one day. How can this saint still have the face to claim the title of the first great saint of the demon race? Feng Wu laughed. Don't worry, Rock Saint. This saint has no interest in being the first great saint at all. Furthermore, at this point, could it be that you still care about this empty title in your heart? Phoenix Sage, you really don't care about the title of the first great saint? The golden-winged great rock was slightly taken aback and asked curiously. Feng Wu nodded solemnly. This saint is speaking from the bottom of my heart. Sigh. The golden-winged great rock sighed. If this saint had the same temperament as Phoenix Sage when I first became a great saint, why would I have to wait until today to break through the bottleneck? You're wrong, Rock Saint. Feng Wu smiled. If it weren't for the unyielding spirit of the past, I wouldn't have broken through the bottleneck today. If I hadn't taken one step at a time, how could I have reached my goal with such difficulty? That's what that human grand ascension stage cultivator often says, right? The golden-winged great rock asked in a probing manner. Feng Wu nodded. You're right, Rock Saint. I've benefited greatly from following fellow Daoist Xiao. I'm extremely envious that you have such a good friend, Phoenix Sage. The golden-winged great rock seemed to be implying something as he spoke. Feng Wu smiled. Fellow Daoist Xiao is an approachable cultivator. If Rock Saint wants to, you can gather some information about his past. You'll be able to draw your own conclusions from this information, so there's no need for me to say anything. On top of that, if Rock Saint wants to, I can also introduce you to Daoist Xiao. Getting to know Daoist Xiao, I feel like it's a bit of a stretch. After all, I had a battle with him today, and it almost ended in a battle of life and death. The golden-winged great rock's tone was somewhat lacking in confidence. I just want Phoenix Sage to sound out Daoist Xiao and see if he believes me. You're wrong, Rock Saint. Feng Wu raised an eyebrow, and the sound of wind and thunder rang out from his wings. There's a saying in the human race that no discord, no concord. Didn't I have a battle with Rock Saint? Phoenix Sage is a demon, while Daoist Xiao is a human. This is different. The golden-winged great rock smiled bitterly. Humans are the most petty and vengeful of all. I don't dare to believe him. Time will reveal a person's heart. Feng Wu smiled. In the future, Rock Saint will naturally know what kind of cultivator Daoist Xiao is. Oh, of course, that's if you have the time. Actually, the golden-winged great rock hesitated. I have to thank Daoist Xiao for being able to break through my bottleneck today, but I'm afraid that Daoist Xiao will misunderstand, so I don't dare to say too much. Feng Wu naturally knew what Xiao Hua's impression of the first great saint of the demon race was, so he smiled. Don't worry, Rock Saint. Daoist Xiao should believe your words. Otherwise, why would he let you go? The golden-winged great peng bird harumphed coldly upon hearing that Xiao Hua intended to let it go. If I want to leave, not even the patriarch can do anything about it. Even though Daoist Xiao is a grand ascension stage human cultivator, he's not confident in being able to keep me here, is he? Feng Wu smiled. That's true. Rock Saint's movement technique is #1 in the demon race. Daoist Xiao really might not be able to catch up to you. Not necessarily, not necessarily. The golden-winged great rock realized his attitude was inappropriate and hurriedly shook his head. Daoist cultivators have many tricks up their sleeves. Perhaps Daoist Xiao has some powerful movement technique. Feng Wu smiled and scanned behind him with his essence sense, but didn't see the 5-colored seashell or the flying feather void beast. He thought for a moment and said, Rock Saint, since you didn't send a message to Pringjun of Shrouding Sky Ridge, who do you think it was? This. The golden-winged great rock hesitated. Feng Wu hurriedly said, Don't worry, Rock Saint, this is just a casual chat between us. I know you don't have any idea, or you would have told Daoist Xiao. Why are you covering for someone else? AI. The golden-winged great rock sighed. Actually, I already have a rough idea of who it is. I have a rough idea of who's behind this, but if I hadn't broken through my bottleneck and broken through to the void-shattering realm, and if you weren't a 7-star great saint, the Great Holy Hall would have most likely revered you in the future. The safety of the Great Holy Hall and the 1,000 demons' sacred realm would have fallen on your shoulders. I wouldn't have told you. Is it that serious? Feng Wu was also stunned and asked in confusion. Of course. The golden-winged great peng's voice was filled with authority as he replied, To think that a demonic beast would use this saint to give orders. This clearly shows that they don't respect this saint or the great holy temple. These demonic beasts have ulterior motives. What they want to do is beneficial to the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. What do you mean, Rock Sage? Feng Wu seemed to understand something. That's right. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the Pentaceratops dragon's doing. The golden-winged great rock said firmly. Feng Wu smiled and looked at the golden-winged great rock. Didn't you just say you weren't sure? Why are you so sure now? Of the 6 great saints of the Great Holy Hall, only I and the Pentaceratops dragon would covet the dragon. Since it wasn't me, then it could only be the Pentaceratops dragon. Seeing that Feng Wu didn't believe him, the golden-winged great rock's tone became colder. He said unhappily, Besides, he's been coveting my position as the first great saint of the demon race for a long time. In the entire demon race, he's the only one who dares to do something behind my back. Of course it's him. Also, the golden-winged great rock hesitated, then added, According to what I know, the Pentaceratops dragon seems to be in contact with some elders of Dragon Island. Otherwise, he wouldn't know about Daoist Zhao's relationship with the dragon race. Do you have any evidence, Rock Sage? Feng Wu asked with a smile. The golden-winged great rock stiffened and said coldly, "My words are evidence. If you don't believe me, then so be it. In fact, if I hadn't broken through, I definitely wouldn't have said what I said today. I also wouldn't have schemed to find a chance to be alone with you. After all, a human Mahayana stage is only a human Mahayana stage. Even if you're stronger than me, so what? As for inviting you, that's because I respect you as a great saint of the demon race. I also want to borrow your power to restrain the Pentaceratops dragon. As for other thoughts, I don't have them." Chapter 44-25. Seeing the golden-winged great peng bird speak directly like Peng Jun, Feng Wu also secretly felt respect for it. Although the strength of the golden-winged rock was there and there was no need to hide it, this was also related to the nature of the golden-winged rock. In fact, when Xiaohua learned that the little white dragon had been suppressed by Qingyu, he had discussed this matter with Feng Wu and the other clones. All of them felt that this matter might not necessarily have anything to do with the 6 great sages of the Great Sage Hall. After all, Xiaohua's strength was only at the 5th or 6th level of origin energy. He was not even comparable to Qingyu, so how could he possibly fall into the eyes of the great sages of the demon race? However, the appearance of the golden-winged great peng, the flying feather-void beast, and the 5-colored sea god shell in Qingyu was out of Xiaohua and Feng Wu's expectations. However, from the mouths of the 3 great saints, they heard something fishy and knew that they might have been deceived by the Monster King. However, at that time, all the explanations and speculations would be useless. Only by fighting and determining the victor would they have the right to speak. Therefore, when victory was within their grasp, whether it was Xiaohua or Feng Wu, they more or less had compassion in their hearts and did not truly beat the 3 great saints to death. Especially later, when Xiaohua revealed a portion of his strength, the 3 great saints saw Xiaohua's sincerity. Although the 3 great saints didn't say anything when they fought, they still left some leeway. Because at such a supreme realm, who would really risk their lives if there wasn't a great enmity between them? Not to mention that everyone had already realized that something was wrong. At that time, the fight was more about face. Because of this, when Xiaohua was sucked into the great rainbow shell realm by Bei Xian, Feng Wu pulled the 3 great sages out of this matter. She stopped them and began to talk about romance. The 3 great sages naturally knew what Feng Wu was thinking. This was also the reason why the golden-winged great rock had invited Feng Wu after part of the truth had been revealed. Because he already knew that Feng Wu was the great sage of the demon race, even though Feng Wu had a very close relationship with Xiaohua. Feng Wu accepted the invitation with ease because he knew very well that even the 3 great saints didn't have the strength to make things difficult for him. The 3 great saints definitely wouldn't make things difficult for him because of Qingyu. However, after seeing the rare humble attitude of the golden-winged great rock and what he said just now, Feng Wu suddenly understood that Qingyu's matter might be very small and not worth the attention of the great sage of the Great Sage Temple, but this matter had caused a lot of trouble, and the power behind it had a lot to plan. This plan had originally been hidden under the ice river, but Qingyu's matter had exposed it all at once. Furthermore, the power of the Great Sage Hall's 6 great sages was balanced. Suddenly, the golden-winged great peng broke through the bottleneck and became a great saint himself. In an instant, the balance between the entire Great Sage Temple and the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm was broken. In particular, his strength had suppressed the ambitious mystic armored Pentaceratops. If the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm wanted to reach a new equilibrium, it would be impossible without some turbulence. Thinking of this, Feng Wu smiled and said to the golden-winged great peng, "Sage Peng, I understand what you mean. However, I've already said that I won't interfere in any of the Great Sage Temple's affairs, and I won't allow any power to interfere in the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. Therefore, I'm afraid your hopes will be dashed." The golden-winged great peng sneered, "When the mystic armored Pentaceratops became a great saint, I happened to pass by. The mystic armored Pentaceratops was afraid that I would disturb his celestial worship, so he swore many things in front of me and almost swore a demon oath. With my character, how could I possibly stop the birth of a great saint of the demon race? I didn't pay any attention to him and even stood guard for him. But what happened in the end? He didn't fulfill a single word of his and even frequently caused trouble for me. How could he still be the mystic armored Pentaceratops of that day? Moreover, if you don't want to establish your power in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, why did that human Mahayana realm take by Qingyu, heaven-obscuring ridge and ancient Bell Mountain for himself? Why would a human Mahayana realm cultivator want territory in the Thousand Demons sacred realm? Feng Wu waved a hand with a faint smile and said, "There's a saying in the human race that distance tests a horse's strength and time reveals a person's heart. You can just wait and see what I think in the future, Sage Peng. I won't agree to what you just said, Sage Peng. I won't interfere in the karma of the great sage temple." Hee. The golden-winged great Peng chuckled coldly. "Seeing as you've already become a great saint, you've already been tainted by the karma of the great sage temple. Just like today, I had no relationship with that human Mahayana realm cultivator, but I was still dragged into this mess. To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that that human Mahayana realm cultivator had a good character, Sage Ni, Sage Bei, and I would have been severely injured even if we didn't lose a grade. This is also why I wanted to befriend that human Mahayana realm cultivator." A thought seemed to have occurred to the golden-winged great Peng at this point, and he stiffened his neck as he said, "This isn't me admitting defeat. If he wants to fight me, then you can help me accept it." Ah. Feng Wu laughed heartily as he flapped his wings and said, "Sage Peng, you really are an interesting demon. Compared to the craftiness of Sage Ni and Sage Bei, I think Daoist Xiao would be more willing to befriend you." "How crafty can Sage Bei be?" The golden-winged great Peng chuckled coldly. "He doesn't even have a brain." Feng Wu could tell from Bai Qing's confusion. On top of that, Sage Ni is inferior to the Pentaceratops. Feng Wu naturally couldn't take the golden-winged great Peng's words at face value, but he still said, "That's true. Among our demon race, it seems that the dragon race is the most crafty. From the ordinary dragon race to the dragon kings of the 4 seas, then to the 9 elders of the dragon palace. In the future, if anyone dares to call foxes cunning in front of me, I'll break their nose. In the face of dragons, foxes are like 3-year-old toddlers." That's right. Although Feng Wu didn't mention the Pentaceratops, the golden-winged great Peng felt the same way. He laughed heartily and flapped his wings, causing a gust of wind to blow within 100 miles. He looked at Feng Wu with a much friendlier expression. After the golden-winged great Peng finished laughing, Feng Wu said seriously, "Sage Peng, if we want to find the so-called mastermind, we might as well think about it and start from the nearest place." "What do you mean, Sage Peng?" The golden-winged great Peng was straightforward. At this moment, he almost treated Feng Wu as an old friend and asked curiously. Feng Wu thought for a moment and asked, "Sage Peng, I have a question for you." "Please speak, Sage Peng." The golden-winged great Peng nodded and replied, "In the words of the human race, I'll tell you everything I know. I want to know why Sage Peng, Sage Ni, and Sage Bei came to Bai Qingyu. I remember that Sage Peng didn't come because of Peng Jun's message, right? Since it wasn't arranged in advance, how did Sage Peng get here in time?" Feng Wu's phoenix eyes flashed as she asked the golden-winged great Peng. So that's the problem." The golden-winged great Peng laughed. "When I first came to Bai Qingyu, I also thought about it. However, it seems that coming to Bai Qingyu has nothing to do with the Pentaceratops. I'm afraid it's Sage Ni's little scheme." "Oh? What do you mean?" Feng Wu raised her eyebrows and asked. Then the rock sage explained everything in detail. Only then did Feng Wu understand. It turned out that Feng Wu had become a great saint in the South Sea Dragon Palace's great array and had triggered a change in the starry sky of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The golden-winged rock and the other great saints of the demon race all flew out of their cultivation grounds and headed towards the great sage temple. They were all prepared to welcome the new great saint there. However, because Heavenly Phoenix had destroyed the star bridge leading to the great sage hall, Feng Wu didn't go. Therefore, the 6 great sages waited in vain at the great sage hall. The 6 great sages didn't gather often, so they took this opportunity to stay in the Great Sage Hall for a while. During this time, the golden-winged Great Peng received a message from Song Yuetian saying that there were changes in the 3 demon territories in the far north. After reading the message, the golden-winged Great Peng discussed with the other 5 great sages and invited the scarlet flame vermilion bird to the far north to take a look. At the same time, the flying feather void beast also received a message. He invited the 5-colored sea god shell and the golden-winged Great Peng to come to Baiqinyu, saying that there would be a good show to watch. The golden-winged Great Peng was unwilling to come to Baiqinyu, but the flying feather void beast insisted on inviting him. Therefore, the golden-winged Great Peng followed the flying feather void beast and the 5-colored sea god shell to Baiqinyu. The matter of going to the far north was left to the other 3 great sages. After the golden-winged Great Peng finished speaking, Feng Wu asked curiously, "So, it wasn't Daoist Zhao's 200,000 Fortune Gates disciples that lured Sage Peng here?" "He, of course not." The golden-winged Great Peng laughed. "This Holy One was shocked when we arrived here. Since when did so many high-level humans enter the 1,000 Demons' sacred land? At that time, this Holy One thought that Sage and I had received the news in advance. There should be a transmission passage from the Great Holy Hall to Baiqinyu, right?" Feng Wu asked again. "Otherwise, Sage Peng and the others wouldn't have arrived in such a timely manner." The golden-winged Great Peng didn't hide anything and nodded. "There is a demonic formation in the Great Holy Hall that can draw on the power of the moon and stars to reach most places in the 1,000 Demons' sacred land. We came here with the help of the demonic formation. However, the demonic beasts can only go from the Great Holy Hall to other places, and not from other places." The golden-winged Great Peng suddenly thought of something and flapped his wings. "This Holy One forgot. Sage Phoenix has never entered the Great Holy Hall, and the Star Bridge can sense the star runes on Sage Phoenix's body. Sage Phoenix can rely on this connection to summon the Star Bridge in the Great Holy Hall. Since Sage Phoenix is a 7 stars great sage, the Rainbow Bridge also has the power of 7 stars. Not to mention this Holy One, Sage Ni, and Sage Bei can borrow Sage Phoenix's light. Even Sage Dragon, Sage Spider, and Sage Sparrow can be guided to the Great Holy Hall. P.S. Sagittarius Constellations, Nostalgia, Moonlight, Birthday Update. I hope everyone has a happy time. Chapter 44-26. So that's how it is. Feng Wu smiled. No wonder I can sense the location of the Great Holy Temple no matter where I am in the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. Especially when I was sparring with Sage Peng, I felt a kind of suction force. So that's how it is. The golden-winged rock laughed when he heard Feng Wu call their previous fight a spar. He said, "Earlier, I resented Saint Ni for scheming against me. However, after thinking about how I benefited from this disaster, I can't be bothered to argue with him anymore." "That's right," Feng Wu said earnestly. "There's a saying in the human race that unity is a fortress. If the 7 sages of the Great Holy Temple can't work together, how can we?" At this point, Feng Wu was at a loss for words. "Yes, what can we do? Resist the invasion of the human race? Resist the enemy?" However, Feng Wu's eyes turned, and she hurriedly covered it up. "How can we resist the Dragon Island's instigation? How can we avoid a disaster?" "What Sage Feng said is true," the Golden Rock shouted. "The dragon race is clearly a branch of the demon race, but they want to call themselves the dragon race and split themselves off. They even created a dragon island to compete with the Great Holy Temple. There are 4 dragon palaces in the 4 seas, and they are even more powerful than the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. Damn it, the more I look at them, the more I dislike them. Also, this Pentaceratops, on the surface, seems to be at odds with the Dragon Island, but who knows how many tricks they have up their sleeves." Cough cough. Feng Wu coughed twice, looked back and changed the topic. "I wonder when Sage Ni and Sage Bei will arrive?" "Them?" the Golden Rock said with disdain. "They won't arrive until nightfall." "Oh, right, Sage Feng, what method did that Mahayana human use? Even the old ancestor had to admit defeat? Also, what are those countless lights? It seems like even Sage Bei was affected? Sage Bei kept saying that his bloodline was taken away. How can that be true? Feng Sheng pondered for a moment and said in a low voice, "This seems to be one of spiritual Master Zhao's divine abilities. It is extremely powerful and should be related to bloodline. Daoist Master Xiao is very secretive about this kind of divine ability, and even I don't know much about it. However, if nothing unexpected happens, the five-colored sea god shell is right. The sea god's bloodline of the Shell clan should have been taken away." "Ah? Is that true?" The Golden Rock was stunned to hear this. Is this human grand ascension stage being really that powerful? "What do you think, Sage Peng?" Feng Wu asked with a smile. If that wasn't the case, how could this sage be friends with him? Didn't I say so earlier? Daoist Xiao has helped me a lot in becoming a great sage. Although I don't know how the old ancestor helped Sage Peng become a great sage, this sage feels that Daoist Zhao's help to this sage is definitely no less than the old ancestor's help to you. No wonder. The golden-winged great Peng bird nodded in response. In that case, I can forgive you for helping that grand ascension stage human. Feng Wu naturally didn't care about the golden-winged great Peng bird's forgiveness, but he still smiled. Since Sage Peng knows about this sage's difficulties, then it's easy to talk about it. If this sage can become friends with Daoist Xiao, then it'll be good for my thousand-beast sacred realm. Didn't you see? Although the old ancestor has been defeated and her natal shell has been destroyed, she still doesn't dare to do anything to Daoist Xiao. Sigh, as a junior, I don't care so much about the old ancestor's matters. It's just a pity that the five-colored sea god shell was originally ranked 4th, but now he's ranked last among the 7 great sages. Even if he's ranked last among the 7 great sages, he's still a great sage. It's better than losing his life. Feng Wu replied indifferently. Without the sea god's bloodline, Sage Peng bird's chances of shattering the void have become even slimmer. The golden-winged great Peng bird sighed. Feng Wu didn't think much of it. No one said that becoming a great sage means that one will definitely be able to shatter the void. Among the 7 great sages, perhaps only Sage Peng bird can shatter the void. Hee hee. The golden-winged great Peng bird was rather pleased by Feng Wu's flattery. He laughed a few times and said, "You're right, Sage Peng bird. Everyone sweeps the snow in front of their own door. Don't worry about the frost on the roof of their house." Sit. Feng Wu nodded. We've already reached this level, so it's better not to think too much about scheming and scheming. Instead, we should think about how to reach the highest level. Oh, right, this sage doesn't know much about the thousand-beast sacred realm. Can Sage Peng bird explain more about it? Well said, well said. The golden-winged great Peng bird was in a good mood. Before the five-colored sea god shell and the flying feather void beast flew over, he told Feng Wu a little about the thousand-beast sacred realm. When the stars shone, the five-colored sea god shell and the flying feather void beast did indeed arrive. The 2 great sages were very tactful. They didn't ask who the victor was. When the golden-winged great Peng bird told them about how Feng Wu had used the star bridge to enter the great sage palace, the 2 great sages had no objections. Thus, Feng Wu raised her head and let out a phoenix cry. Her huge demonic body spread out. Then, on her back, the star patterns of the Big Dipper rotated. 7 pillars of stars fell from the Big Dipper in the starry sky. Then, the star patterns turned into a spinning shadow and rushed out. The moment the star patterns turned into a star shadow, Feng Wu sensed the location of the great sage palace. Without thinking too much, Feng Wu spread her wings. At the same time, her demonic body soared into the sky. The 7 star shadows also soared high into the sky. After the shadows spun a few times like a stream of light, boom, a rainbow bridge came through the sky. It was actually the same as the one Feng Wu saw in the Southern Sea Dragon Palace. Sage Peng bird is indeed a 7-star great sage. Seeing that the arched rainbow bridge turned into 7 colors, the golden-winged great Peng bird clapped his hands and shouted, "Even the star bridge is 7 colors. Come, 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 Saint and I, Saint Shell, let's each take a color." As he spoke, the golden-winged great Peng bird landed on the yellow star bridge without waiting for Feng Wu's agreement. The flying feather-void beast and the five-colored sea god seashell looked at each other with understanding in their eyes. The two saints didn't say anything and each took a color. When the three saints landed on the bridge naturally didn't move. However, when Feng Wu's phoenix claw landed on the bridge, the space within a radius of 10,000 miles began to tremble. Then, thousands of light shadows appeared in the surroundings. These light shadows connected with the rainbow bridge's colors. Countless illusory stars were born in the light shadows, and on the other side of the bridge, an incomparably majestic palace appeared. This palace was naturally the Great Sage Palace. As soon as the Great Sage Palace appeared, it rapidly enlarged and gradually became clearer. In a trance, Feng Wu discovered that the space around him had unknowingly changed. The rainbow bridge under his feet had disappeared at some point in time. Not only was the starry sky no longer high up in the sky, but it was below his feet. Layers of nebulae flowed above his head like a river. The golden-winged great praying bird, the flying feather-void beast, and the five-colored sea god shell that were standing near him also disappeared. Strange. Feng Wu glanced around and found so many strange things. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart. But the moment his eyes moved, the originally tall Great Sage Palace seemed to have been hit by a pen. The entire palace was completely distorted, turning into an enormous vortex and condensing into an extremely small dot of light. When Feng Wu looked at the dot of light again, it suddenly shrank and turned into a pitch-black dot that was close to nothingness. Hiss! Feng Wu sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes also shrank into dots of light. He seemed to have sensed something. Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. A powerful and unparalleled suction force appeared in the small dot and rushed out in a spiral shape. The entire starry sky, the flowing nebulae, and the 7-star patterns on Feng Wu's back, which were Feng Wu's body, suddenly distorted and were pulled in by the suction force. It was very strange. Feng Wu felt that her consciousness had been divided into 14 parts. 7 of them fell into a small dot as if they had been crushed. The shattering of the entire starry sky, the rotation of light and shadows, and the shattering of the brilliance of the nebula were all vivid in her mind. Meanwhile, the other 7 were nailed to the spot and could only watch as their surroundings turned into pitch-black darkness and finally disappeared into nothingness. Boom! The moment the shadows completely disappeared, the small dot suddenly exploded. Countless ripples of all kinds rushed out from the small. Every inch of the ripples would transform into different things. First, it was light, then shadows, then dust, nebulae, stars, and so on. Many things that Feng Wu had never seen before flew out. When all of them landed in various parts of the darkness, a star slowly flew out from the small. The moment this star flew out, many things disappeared. Only the starry sky that Feng Wu was familiar with was revealed once again. Moreover, the stars in the starry sky gradually rotated in the starry sky as the star grew larger. Each star's trajectory was different. Whoosh! When the star grew larger, the starlight of the star flashed again, and the shadow of the palace appeared. This shadow was the same as the star patterns on Feng Wu's body. It was not solid. When the shadow took shape, the star completely disappeared. Boom, boom, boom. The entire starry sky shook again. All the stars fell from the starry sky and crashed into the shadow of the palace. In the blink of an eye, a majestic Great Sage Palace that was completely made of stars appeared once again. Woo! 7 howling winds transformed into the cries of phoenixes. In the Great Sage Hall, where the Big Dipper had crashed into, 7 palace doors appeared, each of which was engraved with the words, Great Sage Hall. When the 7 palace doors opened at the same time, 7 stars gushed out and covered Feng Wu's consciousness in 7 different places. Just as the stars fell, the 7 consciousnesses worked together again. Woo! The 7 stars merged into one and formed an even larger star. Where the star landed, the heavenly phoenix demonic body, which had disappeared to an unknown location, appeared again. Ka-cha-cha! Countless bolts of lightning appeared around the Great Sage Hall, and wherever the lightning struck, countless stars would appear. The 7 palace doors transformed into an even larger star door, and Feng Wu slowly flew towards the star door amidst the starry sky. Chapter 44:27. Every time Feng Wu got closer to the Star Gate, the accumulation of tens of thousands of years under the South Sea Dragon Palace, or even hundreds of thousands of years, melted bit by bit. Just like Xiao Hua's epiphany between life and death, it turned into starlight and fell into his consciousness. At the same time, the mysteries of the starry sky derived from the Great Sage Hall were also engraved in his star marks and consciousness. Feng Wu didn't know if time had any meaning here. Perhaps it was in the blink of an eye, or tens of thousands of years. He didn't feel anything at all. He only knew that everything was changing, but he didn't know what exactly had changed until his figure fell into the Star Gate. Boom! Feng Wu's consciousness was completely blank again. Just like how the Great Sage Hall was annihilated and reborn, all his consciousness gathered at one point and then reborn again. This cycle repeated a total of 7 times before Feng Wu saw that he was in a vast starry sky again. The starry sky was everywhere, up, down, left, and right. In the center of the starry sky, there were 6 stars that stood out. However, among the 6 stars, 3 of them were shining brightly, while the other 3 were dim and lightless. "This is the Great Sage Hall?" A proud voice came out of Feng Wu's mouth. It was the same voice as Feng Wu's, but the tone was completely different. Wasn't this the consciousness of the Heavenly Phoenix? The corner of the Heavenly Phoenix's mouth twitched, because he had already seen the figures of the golden-winged great roc, the flying feather void beast, and the 5-colored sea god shell within the 3 starlights. "Ha, Phoenix Sage." The golden-winged great roc's voice came from one of the starlights, and then the star slowly transformed, revealing a huge golden-winged great roc. Without entering the Great Sage Hall, without going through the baptism of the Starry River, you will never be a true great saint. Now, you are qualified to call yourself Phoenix Sage. A 7-star great saint is indeed different. The flying feather void beast also appeared in another star. You just entered the Great Sage Hall, and your starlight is 7 times brighter than mine. Oh, your starlight has already materialized. The Heavenly Phoenix's gaze swept over, and he could already tell that the star formed by the golden-winged great roc was much more solid, while the flying feather void beast and the 5-colored sea god shell were much more illusory. The rainbow sea god seashell also forced a smile onto its face. The Holy Phoenix's starlight has already been withdrawn, and it's not far from materializing. Boom, boom, boom. Before the 5-colored sea god seashell could finish, in the starry sky, the 7 stars shine brightly. Along with this light, the star patterns on the Heavenly Phoenix's back suddenly rush out of the monster body. An extremely strong suction force is generated from the star patterns. This suction force ignores space and falls into the 7 stars. Boom! The 7 stars shattered at the same time and issued a loud sound. They turned into countless stardust particles and fell into the runes of the Big Dipper. Ah? What's going on? Even the 5-colored seashell and the flying feather void beast were shocked. They had never seen anything like this before, nor had they seen anything like this in the records of the Great Sacred Hall. They didn't know what was going on. After the 7 stars shattered, the 7 spots were empty. However, this wasn't the end. Immediately after, 6 more stars lit up. The 6 pillars of stars fell on 6 of the 132 million dots. The bloodlines of the 6 dots began to mutate within the pillars of stars. As they fused with the transparent body, 6 star patterns slowly formed on the transparent body. Every tiny star pattern carried a mysterious aura, as well as a vast and unparalleled power of the stars and moon. Unlike the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper had transformed into shadows. The 6 stars of the Southern Dipper? How is this possible? The golden-winged roc's body couldn't turn into a star under the starlight of the Heavenly Phoenix and had been forced to turn into a monster body. Seeing this, he cried out in disbelief. Could it be that the 7-star Great Saint is going to become a 13-star Great Saint? No, it's not just that. The flying feather void beast's eyes were filled with extreme terror. Its tentacles pointed at the stars that lit up one after another. It was almost as if they were about to explode. The great golden-winged roc shifted his gaze away from the heavenly phoenix and looked towards the starry sky. Sure enough, the stars lit up one by one, and pillars of starlight fell from the sky, blasting into the heavenly phoenix's demonic form. The heavenly phoenix's demonic form gradually began to expand, enveloping the entire great sage hall. In front of this gigantic demonic form, the demonic form that the great golden-winged roc was so proud of was like a sparrow. The pillars of stars in the sky finally converged into a river of stars. Countless mysteries of the stars filled the great sacred hall as if they were free. The five-colored seashell could no longer think with his body. When he looked at the great sage hall again, it no longer looked like a sacred hall. Instead, it had turned into a gigantic planet. This planet was made up of tens of millions of planets, and every single one of them had turned into a pitch-black vortex. These vortexes were filled with a strange and powerful suction force. Not only did they suck in the surrounding light and shadows, but they also drew in endless stars through the mysterious bridge of stars. This corresponded to the brilliant starry sky above the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. It was as bright as day. In the extreme north of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, there was a thick layer of ice as far as the eye could see. There was no sun or blue sky in the sky. Layers of dark clouds completely covered the horizon, and goose feather-like snowflakes filled the world and fell. There was no wind in the sky, only the falling snowflakes. The mountains of different heights didn't look like mountains at all. All that was left was a faint outline. There was a huge ice plain between the mountains, and there were no traces of the demon race on it. The fluffy snow was like a wrinkle-free quilt covering the earth. Occasionally, there would be a hard layer of ice between the mountain peaks. It was abnormally translucent. When the snowflakes fell, they would instantly become a part of the ice layer. At the moment when the snowflakes were frozen, the ice threads reflected the sky full of snow. The ice was like a mirror. It was as if snow was pouring out from the sky and earth, majestically surging through the world. Puff! Out of nowhere, there was a sudden movement in the snow-white world. Then there was another puff, 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 puff. There was a place full of black holes in the snowy plains. The holes were not big, only a few inches wide. They were like eyes that had been born out of the earth, looking straight at the gloomy sky. Who? When a small red head poked out of the hole, a chubby little face appeared in the light of the snow. The most spirited feature on the little face was the pair of eyes. Two red agate-like eyeballs were rolling around on the crimson face. Below the eyes was the most striking nose on the little face. The nose actually took up 40% of the little face. There were even a few pieces of snow stuck on the nose. The snow slowly melted under the hot breath exhaled from the nostrils and dripped onto the mouth below the nose. As if it was itchy, the little mouth opened slightly, revealing two sharp, snow-white incisors. Slurp. Between the incisors, a small pink tongue quickly curled around the lips, and the snow instantly disappeared. After the small tongue retracted, the little mouth happily moved up and down. GG. Sounds came from within. After a few more cries, 3 red claws stretched out from under the little head. Each of the claws was holding a demonic fruit that was only a few inches long. Crunch, crunch. The little head lowered, and the sharp teeth landed on the demonic fruit. In a few breaths' time, the demonic fruit was completely devoured. In the end, the pink tongue licked the 3 claws again, sweeping away the remains and juice of the demon fruit. At this place, crunch, crunch. Sounds of crunching could be heard everywhere, covering the sound of snow falling from the sky. Tens of thousands of little heads like this had already appeared in the snow plains, and each of them greedily ate the demonic fruit. These cute little creatures were the commonly seen autumn rats in the northernmost part of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Crunch, crunch. The sounds of crunching were extremely rhythmic, but all of a sudden, all of the sounds stopped. All of the autumn rats put down the demonic fruit that they were eating, and their little heads swayed left and right with all their might. Their eyes were filled with panic. Swoosh! Just a few dozen feet away from these autumn rats, A sound suddenly came from a small pile of snow. A white figure flashed out from the pile of snow and pounced on the closest autumn rat. Puff! Where the white figure landed, a red light flashed from within the hole, and the autumn rat had already fallen into the snow. The white figure's figure only caused snow and dust to fly, but it did not manage to grab a single strand of the autumn rat's red hair. At this moment, the white figure's figure was revealed. It was the autumn rat's natural enemy, the snow spear. This snow spear was like a leopard cat, but its 4 hooves were closer to the sides of its body, and there was an almost transparent membrane between its hooves. When the snow spear's attack missed, its membrane flapped again, and its body floated like a snowflake. It was as fast as lightning, and it attacked the closest autumn rat. Swoosh! The autumn rat immediately retracted its head, but the snow spear's figure swayed, and it actually abandoned the autumn rat and turned to the other side. Over there, another autumn rat stuck its head out of the hole in the snow, as if it was watching a show. It was not in a hurry to escape, as if a life-and-death battle on this lonely snowy plains was also interesting. Seeing the snow spear suddenly pounce on it, the autumn rat was greatly frightened. It was already unable to dodge, and its little head only retracted half an inch. Puff! The snow spear's claws landed on the autumn rat's skull with lightning speed, and some green-red blood spurted out while emitting hot air. Once the snow spear succeeded, it did not stop at all. Its membrane flapped, and its figure flew into the distance. Under its sharp claws, the snow spear's corpse dripped with blood, and it fell onto the snowy plains. Looking at the distant autumn rats, as the snow spear flew away, they began to become active again. They did not panic just because an autumn rat was killed, and the autumn rats that were slightly further away did not even notice that an autumn rat was killed. Chapter 44:28. However, just as the snow sprite's sharp claws dragged the autumn rat across the snowy plains and was about to choose a place to eat, the snow sprite's body suddenly stopped. The snow-white fur all over its body exploded with a schwa sound as its entire body silently fell into the snow. Immediately after, the originally tranquil snowy sky in the distant skies suddenly swept up several peerless hurricanes. The hurricanes were like huge spirals that swept across the sky ostentatiously. The fluttering snowflakes and the seemingly solidified red clouds in the sky were stirred up at the same time. It was the appearance of a storm. What was special was that just as the hurricanes rose, a valiant aura of a king surged over from afar. It couldn't help but fill up the entire sky. Even the snow on the snowy plains and mountain ranges were swept up. Even the solid ice city cracked with creaking sounds. Whoosh! The snow spear instinctively threw away the autumn rat's corpse. Its body didn't run away at all. It immediately rushed into the snow and disappeared in a moment. Looking behind the snow spear, the originally cheerful autumn rats had long disappeared without a trace. Only the corpse of the autumn rat with green-red blood flowing on its head was left staring blankly at the sky, allowing the swirling snowflakes to float past its big nose. The snow spear looked up at the sky. Autumn rat looked at the sky. As the wind blew and the clouds swayed, 3 huge figures appeared. The first was a dragon. The dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Demonic clouds covered its body. Behind the dragon was a vermilion bird with flames all over its body. The vermilion bird's flames burned the space until it distorted. Its entire body gave off an ethereal feeling. On the vermilion bird's right was a huge spider with a colorful body. This spider was different from ordinary spiders. Its entire demonic body was slightly longer, and its huge claws flashed with a pitch-black luster. Between the spider's carapace and between the joints of its claws, there was a lot of golden fur. The fur swayed in the wind, and a lot of pitch-black demonic chi surged out. The demonic chi was mixed with thick blood. When it landed on the spider's carapace, it actually revealed the shape of dragon scales. What was special was that on the spider's swaying head, some valiant dragon might would faintly emerge from a protrusion from time to time. Weren't the 3 demons who had broken the tranquility of the snowland the 3 great saints of the demon race who had come to the northernmost part of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm for an exploration? The mystic armored pentaceratops, the red flame vermilion bird, and the nether dragon spider? The three great saints of the demon clan naturally couldn't pay attention to autumn rat and snow shark on the snowy plains. That huge figure flashed past autumn rat's dead eyes, and his vast vital consciousness had already scattered into the distance. Cough, cough. The nether demonic dragon spider coughed and said in a hoarse voice, "Dragon Sage, who do you think this new 7-star great saint is? I've been waiting in the great sage hall for so long, but he hasn't come? Could it be that he can avoid the great sage hall's star bridge?" The mystic armored pentaceratops snorted coldly like thunder. "How would I know? I'm just a 1-star great saint. I don't have the strength to resist the star bridge, but maybe this 7-star great saint can." Kiki. The scarlet flame vermilion bird laughed shrilly. Its voice was very similar to Zhu Mei's in the past. "I just don't know how strong this 7-star great saint is. I wonder who's stronger between him and Rock Sage." The scarlet flame vermilion bird's words seemed to have provoked the pentaceratops. The pentaceratops curled its tail and roared towards the sky. In the sky, a huge hole appeared in the clouds. Behind the hole, a beam of sunlight pierced through the hole. Although the sunlight seemed to have faded, it was still orange in color. Its sharpness pierced through the darkness of the sky. It was as if the pentaceratops was angry. The scarlet flame vermilion bird smiled and said, "Let's not talk about that dog's hit 7-star great saint. Who knows what he is? I'm curious about Sage Ni's actions in the Great Sage Hall." "Sage and I?" The nether demonic dragon spider was slightly taken aback. He asked curiously, "What's so strange about him? This guy is usually very scheming and has always been on good terms with Dragon Sage. This extreme north. If it were normal, he would have instigated Sage Peng to come here." The scarlet flame vermilion bird smiled. After all, Sage Peng's flying speed is extremely fast. If there's any danger, he can easily escape. Why did he insist on dragging Sage Peng to Bai Qingyu for no reason? If he went to flatter the ancestor's descendant, there's no need for Sage Peng to follow him, right? Could it be? Before the nether demonic dragon spider could speak, the mystic armored pentaceratops coldly asked, Could it be what? Could it be that he knows about the 7-star great saint's background? Then he turned to approach Sage Peng? Or, could it be that this 7-star great saint is related to the ancestor? The scarlet flame vermilion bird probed. The nether demonic dragon spider shouted, "Impossible! If this 7-star great saint is related to the ancestor, how could Sage Bei not know?" That day in the Great Sage Hall, he solemnly swore that the ancestor had never appeared in the past 10,000 years. Sage Bei? Does it? Oh, wrong, his brainless demonic body? The mystic armored pentaceratops coldly smiled and said, "If he knows about the 7-star great saint's background, this sage will break off his dragon horn and give it to you." "Ha, the dragon sage, you said it yourself." The nether demonic dragon spider laughed and said, "This sage has been coveting your dragon horn for a long time. Damn it, if this sage dares to give it to you, you dare to take it?" The mystic armored pentaceratops glared at the nether demonic dragon spider. "Although you have the demonic dragon's bloodline, are you sure you can subdue the dragon intent in this sage's dragon horn?" "Hee, how would I know if I don't try? Dragon Sage, why don't you let this sage try?" The nether demonic dragon spider said shamelessly. Scram. The mystic armored pentaceratops roared and shouted, "This sage doesn't have time to dawdle with you. Let's hurry up and see what's going on in the Qijing, Yuanfeng, and Bingqin demon realms, then quickly return to cultivate." Hee. Seeing that the mystic armored pentaceratops didn't want to talk about the golden rock, the scarlet flame vermilion bird smiled and said, "Speaking of Bai Qingyu, this sage has some news." "What news?" The mystic armored pentaceratops' curiosity was piqued, and he couldn't help but ask. "Dragon Sage, the Qijing demon realm isn't far from here, right? Let's hurry over and take a look." The scarlet flame vermilion bird said solemnly, "After all, the 3 demon realms have been completely destroyed, and even the great demons of Tsangyu heaven haven't returned. Damn it!" The mystic armored pentaceratops roared. Rumble. A pitch-black thunderbolt appeared out of nowhere. Speak quickly. If you don't speak, this daddy will kill you. Don't be anxious, dragon sage. The scarlet flame vermilion bird replied with a smile, unafraid of the mystic armored pentaceratops. This sage merely happened to hear the discussion of two great demons when passing by the dark flux demon realm. At first, this sage didn't pay much attention to it, but when Sage Ni pulled Sage Pring to Bai Qingyu in the Great Sage Hall, this sage recalled this matter. Sparrow Sage, you are quite scheming. The nether demonic dragon spider said with a smile. You actually restrained yourself from mentioning Bai Qingyu's matter until now. Damn it, this sage forgot about it, the scarlet flame vermilion bird shrieked, as though trying to explain. Seeing the scarlet flame vermilion bird trying to delay the matter, the mystic armored pentaceratops said coldly, Sparrow Sage, it's up to you whether you want to speak or not. When this sage returns to the Great Sage Hall, I will first tell Sage Ni about this matter. That can't be, Dragon Sage. The scarlet flame vermilion bird said with a bitter expression. You also know that Sage Ni is the type to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. This sage only knows a little bit of information, so it shouldn't be enough for him to remember it, right? Speak quickly. The mystic armored pentaceratops roared again. The scarlet flame vermilion bird wasn't delaying the matter, he was testing whether the mystic armored pentaceratops really didn't know about Bai Qingyu's matter. Unfortunately, he couldn't see anything from the mystic armored pentaceratops' expression. Thus, he said with a smile, this sage heard that Bai Qingyu was holding a banquet. It seems that Bai Qingyu's demon king suppressed a human cultivator and wanted to use him to attract some humans to serve as food. What kind of bullshit is this? The mystic armored pentaceratops didn't wait for the scarlet flame vermilion bird to finish speaking. The matter of a demon king attracted Sage Ni? Sage Ni even pulled Sage Ping over? Did he think that a human cultivator could lure the human race's sage of literature? Unless the human cultivator was immortal Emperor Go Chen's princess. The nether demonic dragon spider immediately followed up on the mystic armored pentaceratops' words. If it was immortal Emperor Go Chen's princess, that demon king wouldn't dare to suppress her even if he had 10 times the guts. Spider Sage, you're too full of yourself. The scarlet flame vermilion bird laughed. Bai Qingyu's demon king is Sage Bei's descendant. So what if he's Sage Bei's descendant? The nether demonic dragon spider asked, unconvinced. Even if Sage Bei wanted to suppress an immortal Emperor Go Chen's princess, he had to consider the consequences. What if it was you, ancestor? The scarlet flame vermilion bird's crimson flames shot up for thousands of feet. The nether demonic dragon spider was at a loss for words. The mystic armored pentaceratops laughed. Spider Sage, don't listen to Sage Vermilion Bird. Why would Ancestor care about a demon king? That's right, that's right. The nether demonic dragon spider immediately glared at the scarlet flame vermilion bird and shouted, why would Ancestor care about a human cultivator? This human cultivator naturally isn't immortal Emperor Go Chen's princess. The scarlet flame vermilion bird didn't care and said casually, as for who she is, I don't know. However, I do know that other than Bai Qingyu, there's also Shrouding Sky Ridge and Ancient Bell Mountain. Shrouding Sky Ridge? Ancient Bell Mountain? The mystic armored pentaceratops was a bit surprised. Are those all the demon realms of Sage Bei's descendants? Of course not. The scarlet flame vermilion bird laughed. Shrouding Sky Ridge is the demon realm of one of Sage Peng's descendants, and Ancient Bell Mountain is the demon realm of one of Sage Ni's descendants? No wonder you didn't say anything in the Great Sacred Hall. The nether demonic dragon spider waved its claws in the air as if it was laughing. So these 3 demon realms are related to Sage Peng, Sage Ni, and Sage Bei. That's good. The mystic armored pentaceratops said faintly, if Sage Peng and Qi Jing came, I might be. Hee, why would he drag me to Bai Qingyu? He probably has some other plans in mind, right? The mystic armored pentaceratops suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Its dragon body suddenly emitted a blinding light as it turned into a ray of light and rushed forward. Chapter 44:29. The scarlet flame vermilion bird was taken aback when he saw the profound armored pentahorn dragon's strange behavior. He hurriedly released his yuan will, and as expected, when he saw the situation in the distance, he was also shocked. He spread his wings and flames burned fiercely. The scarlet flame vermilion bird's huge body also disappeared in a flash. "We're already here, what's the hurry?" The nether demonic dragon spider muttered as its body shook. Then, a dozen of its claws tore the space apart, and its figure disappeared. When the three great saints of the demon race appeared in the sky, their gazes fell on the ground in front of them, and they remained silent for a long time. Beneath the three great sages was an abyss that spanned 1,000,000 miles. The abyss was at least 10,000 feet deep. Inside the abyss, snowflakes danced in the air, but the strange thing was that the abyss was different from the snow on the ground. At the bottom of the abyss, there was a thin layer of snow. Due to the heat of the earth, there were many places where the dark green soil was exposed to the night sky. However, there seemed to be a layer of phosphorescence in the dark green soil, which shone brightly in the night sky. This abyss was actually so big that one couldn't see the end of it. Layers upon layers of light flickered like sparkling waves. "How can this be?" After a long while, the nether demonic dragon spider said in a low voice, "The whale demon realm is an inland sea, right? How did it become an abyss?" "The sea is gone, so it naturally became an abyss." The scarlet flame vermilion bird replied in a low voice. He had a bad feeling in his heart. The nether demonic dragon spider said in shock, "How can this be? How can millions of miles of sea be gone just like that? Not even a drop of water or a piece of ice is gone." The profound armored pentahorn dragon said coldly, "It's not just the water, even the whale demon race was killed." The scarlet flame vermilion bird sighed. The whale demon race are all sea beasts that are close to 10,000 feet long. In terms of demonic bodies, they don't fear any demon race in the thousand demons sacred realm. There are also many great demons in the whale demon race. Although the Demon King didn't reach the 8th grade of origin energy, it was close to the 8th grade. The great demons of Blue Moon Sky all died here. How could a demonic beast king with an upper 7th grade elemental energy survive? The profound armored pentahorn dragon said coldly. "The problem is..." The nether demonic dragon spider said curiously, "It's not just the monster kings and great monsters. There are many sea monsters in the Qijing demon realm. Apart from the Qijing, there are also Jibao, Qin Kuan, and other monster clans. Although they are not as large as the Qijing, they are also very agile. How could they not know how to escape? Take a look at this place. Not only is there no seawater, there isn't even a single piece of flesh or remains. It is indeed rather strange." The profound armored pentagonal dragon said coldly, "I'm afraid the humans are up to something. Let's go check it out. Didn't the human race have a saying? If you don't want people to know, don't do it in the first place. Since you've done it, you'll definitely leave behind some clues." Alright. The crimson flame vermilion bird nodded and flapped its wings, flying in a certain direction. The mystic pentaceratops dragon let out a long roar and also flew in a certain direction. Only the netherworld demonic dragon spider hesitated for a moment before it also rushed in a certain direction. In less than an hour, the three great saints had all returned to the sect. Dragon Sage, Sparrow Sage. The netherworld demonic dragon spider was the first to speak. "I wonder what you've discovered. This great saint couldn't find anything. This place is extremely strange. There isn't even a trace of a dissipated soul left behind. Everything within hundreds of thousands of miles is a dead zone." The crimson flame vermilion bird nodded as well. "That's right. This great saint also couldn't find any clues. There isn't a single trace of the human race or any other demonic beast race that has been here." The profound armored pentagonal dragon looked into the distance and didn't speak for a long time. Although it didn't answer, the crimson flame vermilion bird and the netherworld demonic dragon spider knew that it hadn't discovered anything. "Sparrow Sage, Spider Sage." The profound armored pentagonal dragon retracted its gaze from the abyss and said, Did you notice that the bottom of this abyss, as well as the four walls, are all extremely flat? No. The crimson flame vermilion bird was stunned for a moment before it casually replied. Its vital consciousness swept toward the abyss, as well as the place where the abyss connected to the ground in the distance. The crimson flame vermilion bird exclaimed in shock. As expected. This is really strange. How can it be so flat? Could it be that the human race has repaired this place? That's true. The netherworld demonic dragon spider looked at the flat bottom of the abyss and said in agreement, not to mention the mud at the bottom of the Qijing demonic realm's inner sea, there should be a lot of reefs and rocks. But now, there isn't even a trace of them. It's as if the entire demon realm's seabed had been flattened by a boulder millions of kilometers in size. What's even stranger is that the four walls look as if they've been cut by a blade. The profound armored pentagonal dragon said coldly. Could it be that the human race is trying to show off to our thousand demonic sacred realm? Or are they trying to express something? Don't think about the human race for now. The crimson flame vermilion bird shook its head. If they wanted to wipe out all the demonic beasts in the Qijing demonic realm, how many high-level cultivators would the human race have to send over? There's no way our thousand demonic sacred realm wouldn't have noticed. Perhaps it's the work of some demonic beast king. Which demonic beast king? Sparrow Sage, why don't you tell us who has the ability to destroy the Qijing demonic realm to such an extent? The profound armored pentagonal dragon retorted. I can say without reservation that even if it's Sparrow Sage, you wouldn't be able to burn the entire Qijing demonic realm to the ground with your scarlet flames. And that's under the circumstances where no information was leaked. That's true. The crimson flame vermilion bird nodded slightly. And the great demons of Tsangyu heaven. The nether demonic dragon spider agreed. Who would dare to attack so brazenly? That's the #1 expert of our thousand demonic sacred realm. At this point, the nether demonic dragon spider hurriedly shut its mouth and changed its words. That's the 6 great sages of our thousand demonic sacred realm. Bullshit, it's the 7 great sages now. The profound armored pentagonal dragon cursed. The nether demonic dragon spider was a bit embarrassed and angry, but its claws moved, and it pointed to the bottom of the abyss. And this phosphorescence, it's also strange. It seems to be embedded in the soil at the bottom of the abyss, and even the snow can't cover it. What about the bottom of the abyss? The profound armored pentagonal dragon asked. I haven't seen it yet. The nether demonic dragon spider muttered. The crimson flame vermilion bird smiled. Then I'll have to trouble you to take a look first. This is Spider Saint's innate ability, and it's something we can't compare to. Dragon Saint, Sparrow Saint, please wait a moment. The nether demonic dragon spider nodded, and the demonic chi around its body gradually surged out. The blood-red light was particularly dazzling in the night, and when it waved its claws, demonic clouds similar to the nether demonic chi surged out, and the nether demonic dragon spider's body fell into the abyss. Seeing the nether demonic dragon spider's body disappear, the crimson flame vermilion bird suddenly said, Dragon Saint, you really didn't find anything? What does Sparrow Saint mean? Could it be that you think I wouldn't say anything if I found something? The profound armored pentagonal dragon asked coldly. The crimson flame vermilion bird chuckled and said in a low voice, That's not it. It's just that I feel that Dragon Saint is the true #1 expert of our great sage temple, so how could you not find anything? The profound armored pentagonal dragon snorted. Maybe in the past, but with the 7-star great sage, I'm not so sure anymore. Dragon Saint. The crimson flame vermilion bird suddenly changed the topic. Do you think the 7-star great sage has something to do with the Chi whale demonic realm? The profound armored pentagonal dragon was stunned for a moment, then its eyes lit up. It nodded and said, You're right. The Chi whale demonic realm is an inner sea. If the 7-star great sage became a great sage in the void at the bottom of the sea, then his aura might be blocked by the endless sea. This 7-star great sage is a great sage that has never appeared in our thousand demons' sacred realm. If he can borrow the power of the moon and stars when he becomes a great sage, then it's not impossible for him to wipe out the entire Chi Whale demonic realm. Then there's the question. The crimson flame vermilion bird asked with interest. Why would he wipe out the entire Chi Whale demonic realm? Is it because of hatred? Is the 7-star great sage also a member of the sea race? No, it should be to hide his identity. The profound armored pentagonal dragon shook its head. The reason why he didn't use the star bridge to go to the great sage temple is because he doesn't want us to know his true body. According to this conjecture, he also wiped out the entire Chi Whale demonic realm to hide his identity. It's fine if he wiped out the entire Chi Whale clan. But why would he destroy the entire inner sea? The crimson flame vermilion bird didn't understand. Deliberately mystifying. The profound armored pentagonal dragon was even more certain. So that we can't guess that he did it. Only a 7-star great sage can be unafraid of the rock sage and blue moon heaven, and dare to kill the great demons of blue moon heaven. If that's the case, the crimson flame vermilion bird was shocked. It looked towards the bottom of the abyss and cried out, "The spider sage is in danger, quick!" The profound armored pentagonal dragon also came to a realization. It hurriedly urged its dragon body and cried out, "We'll go help the spider sage." Boom! Just as the two saints landed at the bottom of the abyss, a surge of demonic chi rose from the ground, and the nether demonic dragon spider hurriedly flew out. The mystic armored pentaceratops was startled, and its dragon body flashed with brilliance as it cried out, "Spider Saint, did you see something?" Seeing the two saints coming, the nether demonic dragon spider immediately calmed down and smiled. "There's nothing in the abyss. Then why are you so flustered?" The crimson flame vermilion bird urged. "You really didn't see anything? Whether it's a human or a demon?" "No, I really didn't." The nether demonic dragon spider laughed. "This saint was afraid that the two great sages would get anxious from waiting, so I came out in a hurry." "Spider sage, you're a great sage of our great sage temple. Why are you so cowardly?" The crimson flame vermilion bird gave the nether demonic dragon spider some face, but the profound armored pentagonal dragon didn't care at all. Why would this saint be cowardly? The nether demonic dragon spider flatly denied. This saint was afraid that the two of you would get anxious from waiting. "Oh, I remember now. There's nothing special within 1,000 miles of the bottom of the abyss. As I travel further down, there seems to be some indescribable changes in the space, but I don't know what exactly it is. I'll have to ask Sage and I to come over and take a look." Chapter 4430. "All right." The Pentaceratops said helplessly, "We'll rush to the Yuanfeng and Bingqin demon realms now. If the situation is similar, we'll ask Saint and I to come over first." Just as the Pentaceratops said this, boom! In the night sky, outside the thick red clouds, a huge roar sounded. A huge beam of light from the stars and moons penetrated the clouds and fell. Although the beam of light was very far away from the three great sages, the heavy clouds formed a vortex under the bombardment of the beam of light, which was very obvious in the dark night sky. Then, boom boom, another 5 loud roars sounded in succession. The clouds that had been penetrated now had 5 more beams of light from the stars and moons falling. The entire cloud layer seemed to be torn apart by a huge hand. As the wind and clouds surged, the strong power of the stars and moons filled the entire sky. Like a tidal wave, the power of the stars and moons flooded the night sky. Just as the three great sages looked at each other, in just a few breaths, the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper appeared in the cloud hole. At this time, the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper connected in the starry sky and proudly looked down on the entire land of the demon race. The brilliant starlight not only illuminated the entire starry sky, but also the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. The 3 great sages were shocked. Before they could think further, boom, boom, boom. 3 slightly soft roars sounded from the 3 great sages. The dragon horn of the Pentaceratops shone brightly, and the star marks engraved on the 5 segments of the dragon horn appeared out of thin air, condensing into a dragon-shaped star in the sky. Many beams of light from the stars and moons fell on it. The dragon horn on the top of its head was revealed. This dragon horn was also different from ordinary dragon horns. It had 5 petals, and each petal was engraved with star marks. These star marks flashed with a black brilliance under the crystal flowers, and they actually condensed into the shape of a dragon star. As for the scarlet flame vermilion bird, each of its wings had half an eye-catching star scar. These star scars emitted starlight along with the scarlet flames. When the pillars of starlight and moonlight fell into these star scars, they also appeared out of thin air like stars. The nether demonic dragon spider was a little different from the other 2 saints. First, blood gushed out from his abdomen, and then more than half of a blood-colored star mark appeared. The beam of starlight and moonlight first fell on the blood before penetrating the star mark. As the star shadow rotated, a star shadow emitting the aura of the netherworld appeared below the nether demonic dragon spider. The 88th great saint? The nether demonic dragon spider cried out in surprise. Not just the 8th great sage. The mystic armored Pentaceratops sensed the surging starlight tide in the entire Thousand Demons sacred realm and coldly said, "And it's a 6-star great sage." "That's impossible," the crimson flame vermilion bird cried out. "Since when have the great sages of our 1000-beast holy realm become so cheap?" It had only been a few months, yet 2 great sages had appeared in succession. One is a 7-star great sage, and the other is a 6-star great sage. How are the other great sages supposed to live? Boom boom boom. Before the crimson flame vermilion bird's words could even be heard, the entire starry sky was filled with rumbling sounds again, and this time it didn't stop. Seeing that all the stars in the starry sky had been lit up, the extreme north, which was originally covered by thick layers of clouds, also shone brightly. Endless beams of light from the stars and the moon descended, not only sweeping away all the clouds, but also illuminating the earth as if it was daytime. 7 stars, 8 stars, 9 stars, 10 stars, 11 stars. The nether demonic dragon pearl stared dumbfoundedly at the stars that lit up one by one. It was still counting in a daze. In the end, it simply stopped counting and roared, "Could it be that a supreme saint of myriad stars has appeared in my 1000 demons sacred realm? It's not just 10,000 stars." The crimson flame vermilion bird was also somewhat puzzled. He coldly said, "It should be called the 10,000 stars great sage." This isn't a newly ascended great sage. Suddenly, the Pentaceratops mystic armored Pentaceratops pointed at where the Big Dipper was and shouted, "The Big Dipper doesn't have any brilliance at all. It's different from when we became great sages. This should be the work of that mysterious 7-star great sage." At this point, the 3 great sages looked at each other as if they had been enlightened. They shouted in unison, "Great Sage Hall. Galaxy Marrow Cleansing. Quick, let's hurry back to the Great Sage Hall." At this point, the Pentaceratops mystic armored Pentaceratops no longer cared about exploring the Yuan Feng and Bingqin demon realms. He hurriedly said, "This 7-star great sage is too cunning. He tricked us into coming to the contract whale, and while Saint Ni and the others went to buy Qingyu, he used the star bridge that never disappeared to go to the Great Sage Hall to cleanse his marrow. From the looks of it, he must have grasped the ancient secret of the Great Sage Hall. If I'm not mistaken, he has a great secret. It might even be disadvantageous to us 6 great sages. We must take advantage of the fact that he has yet to complete his purification and kill him." Kill myriad star great sage? The nether demonic dragon spider was terrified. Even if we 6 great sages join forces, we're still no match for him. If he takes it one step at a time and slowly draws in the power of the stars, we naturally won't be his match. The profound armored pentagonal dragon urged its body forward, not caring whether the nether demonic dragon spider had caught up or not. It yelled, "Unfortunately, his greed is insatiable. He actually wants to activate all the stars in the entire Great Sage Hall. With so many stars wanting to carve star marks on his body, how could he possibly withstand it? Also, if we 6 great sages join forces, Won't we take advantage of the time when he's focused on his marrow cleansing to make our move? That's right. Let's go. The vermilion bird also shouted. If I'm not mistaken, Saint Peng, Saint Anai, Saint Bei, and even the great ancestor should be rushing to the great sage hall. Let's hurry back. The figures of the three great sages flashed in the night sky that was as bright as day, leaving behind a seemingly endless abyss that was incomparably cold under the starlight. Seeing that the night was as bright as day, Xiaohua already understood that this was a phenomenon caused by the seven-star great sage, Feng Wu, entering the great sage hall. However, seeing that the stars in the sky had all fallen to dust, Xiaohua was still greatly shocked. He sent a group of disciples and cultivators back to Xinhua continent while he slowly flew in the starry sky. He felt the power of the stars and moon lingering around him like a lover's kiss, and he couldn't help but think to himself, this heavenly phoenix. What's his background? What's his goal? That day in the legacy realm, that voice was already extremely strange, and this heavenly phoenix's voice was even more resolute. What has the heavenly phoenix decided? It seems like this decision is very difficult, and it's better to die than to live. Legacy realm, legacy realm. As the name implied, it was a place where the legacy of the younger generation was left behind. If the bloodline of the absolute saint was given to thousands of demons, it would naturally be a legacy. However, if this legacy was completely absorbed by the heavenly phoenix, what would it be? What kind of demon will it become? Absolute sage demon? That day in the legacy realm, this Xiao already felt that it was inconceivable that the heavenly phoenix obtained the bloodline of the absolute sage. Now, looking at the starry sky, this Xiao really doesn't dare to believe it. This demon itself, how big of a secret does it have? The more Xiaohua thought about it, the more he felt that this world was truly too big. He was already a Mahayana realm human, and was considered a supreme existence in the three continents. However, in front of these mysteries, he was inferior to an ant. Everything else aside, just the divine punishment that day. Even a demon as strong as Bei Xian couldn't resist at all in the face of the divine punishment. The entire thousand demons' sacred realm, the bloodline of an entire continent's shell race, was taken away in that instant. Perhaps this is the realm that this Xiao should pursue. All of a sudden, Xiaohua himself seemed to have transformed into a phoenix, into a heavenly star that overlooked the stars. All of the ordinary methods of the mortal world could not be seen in his eyes, and even some of the gratitude and grudges became fetters. Of course, it was only for an instant. Xiaohua understood something again. He thought of the scene when he comprehended the primordial violet aura in the primitive continent. He looked at the bright moon and stars, and countless demonic auras in the boundless thousand demons' sacred realm. He smiled and said, "This is the Phoenix Parasol's opportunity, and also the heavenly Phoenix's ambition. It has nothing to do with this Xiao. Life has its order, death has its order. Do what you can and follow the will of the heavens. No matter where you go, don't let down the beautiful scenery by the roadside. This kind of life is interesting, right? I wonder if the heavenly Phoenix, who bears such a heavy responsibility, knows what this Xiao is thinking? However, this Xiao still can't remember the origin of the heavenly Phoenix. This memory is too old, just like the dragon vein. Of course, if nothing unexpected happens, it should be related to the primitive continent. The primitive continent, it's really a mysterious continent. Perhaps if there's a chance, in the future, I'm afraid I'll have to go and take a look again." Just as he flew more than 10,000 li away from Baiqingyu, an owl-like demon flapped its wings and pounced toward Xiaohua with a roar. Not only did some black aura seep out from the feathers on this demon's body, the omnipresent splendor of the stars and moon condensed into an illusory figure that was several times larger around him. That demon looked very powerful as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Hee. Xiaohua smiled slightly. He raised his right hand, bent his middle finger, and then flicked it. Whoosh! The beam of moonlight shot out from between his fingers like an arrow. Boom! The beam of light hit the center of the demon's eyebrows at lightning speed. The beam of light, which was several feet in size, exploded like fireworks. Oh! The demon howled as it fell from the sky. It smashed into a mountain valley. Its huge wings flapped weakly, and its entire body twitched. However, the demon couldn't fly at all. Xiaohua looked at this demon that was at the 5th grade of origin power and raised his index finger again. At this time, his index finger was already flashing with sword light. As long as Xiaohua's index finger fell, this demon definitely wouldn't be able to see the sun of tomorrow. However, just as Xiaohua's index finger fell, Xiaohua laughed again. Damn it, why should I compete with this little demon? Not to mention that I'm already a Grand Ascension stage human, Feng Wu is already a Great Sage of the Great Sage Hall. Previously, he was already a 7-star Great Sage. If the golden-winged Great Peng hadn't made a breakthrough recently, the title of number 1 expert of the demon race would definitely belong to Feng Wu. And now, Feng Wu is borrowing the power of the Great Sage Hall to engrave star patterns on his body. I believe that after this opportunity, even the golden-winged Great Peng won't be a match for Feng Wu. This 1,000 demons sacred realm will be his. This little demon is also his subordinate, so I can't make things difficult for him. I can only make things difficult for myself. Chapter 44:31. Haha. Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh. His figure turned into a streak of light as he flew into the distance. Half a meal later, the monster struggled to get up from the ground. He shook his head as if he had just woken up from a dream. His wings flapped as he shouted, "Damn it, who is this human? How can he be so powerful? I've got nothing better to do. Why would I want to devour a human instead of using the power of the stars and moon? The power of the stars and moon entering my body is equivalent to several years of effort. Why would I waste my time?" The monster muttered as he guided the starlight into his body to refine his monster body. Just as the monster said, the 1,000 demons sacred realm was even more lively than when Feng Wu became a 7-star great saint. This was the power of the stars. It was far more powerful than the power of the 7-star great saints. Countless monsters were cultivating in seclusion, activating their own race's secret technique to guide the stars and moon into their bodies. The realm that had been stagnant for a long time was slowly being pushed forward by the vast tide of stars and moon. At the same time, above the heads of every demon cultivator in the sacred realm of 1,000 demons, there was a trace of faith and worship that could not be detected by the naked eye, divine sense, or other ordinary divine abilities. It passed through space and fell on Xiaohua, into the crystal-like godhead that could not be seen outside of Xiaohua's Naiwan palace. With Xiaohua's current cultivation, he naturally couldn't detect this phenomenon. He saw that all the monsters were cultivating, so he also concealed his aura. However, after flying for a while, he saw a beautiful mountain forest under the moonlight. Green water flowed, and several acres of grass surrounded the mountain forest. It looked like a green carpet. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. His figure descended and stood on the green grass. His gaze once again sized up the surroundings as he said in a low voice, "Forget it, it'll be here then." Saying that, Xiaohua raised his hand and took out the yin-yang bracelet that Bai Bo gave him. He sent his divine sense inside and took out Fairy Jing's remains, as well as her bloody clothes. Looking at the clothes, although there was a strong smell of blood on them, Fairy Jing's aura still existed. Smelling this aura, the scenes from when he saw Fairy Jing on Jade Mountain all the way to when she left on Heartbreak Mountain flashed before Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua really didn't expect that their parting at that time would be forever. He could no longer see that Fairy Jing who carefully hid her lowliness in her heart for fear of being hurt. Deep sorrow filled Xiaohua's heart. Fairy Jing had died for him, and at the same time, she had died to atone for her sins. Fairy Jing didn't have to use her own life to pay for this sin. Even if Xiaohua himself had been suppressed there, Xiaohua wouldn't have let Fairy Jing use her life to save him. What truly brought Fairy Jing to this point was the love in her heart. That love had actually become a burden. While making her surpass the heartless water, it also made her unable to bear the burden. Xiaohua whispered. Rather than talking to Fairy Jing, It was better to say that he was talking to himself. Fairy Jing, I have already taken your soul into the Shenhua continent. I believe that when you enter the cycle of reincarnation, you will be a different person. In this life, this Xiao has been acquainted with you, but I've failed to live up to your feelings. If it weren't for this Xiao, perhaps you would have been able to live a peaceful life. Of course, this Xiao really didn't know the pain in your heart that day and misunderstood you, thinking that you were a woman who was greedy for power. Now, this Xiao knows what you're thinking and has already fulfilled your dying wish. This Xiao originally wanted to bury your remains in the Shenhua continent as a memento. But this life is this life, and the next life is the next life. You definitely don't like living in this life, so this Xiao might as well cut off everything in this life and the next life. I believe that this Xiao's choice is also your choice. I hope that you will be happy in the next life and be a carefree woman of the human race. As he spoke, Xiao Hua's figure flashed and sank into the ground. He only stopped when he had traveled a few hundred meters. He looked around and made a grabbing motion with his hand. Poof! A space a few feet wide was grabbed by him, and Xiao Hua sent Fairy Jing's bloody clothes and remains into it. When Xiao Hua stared at the bloody clothes for a moment, it was as if he could see Fairy Jing's dreamy eyes from that day. Those eyes were filled with joy, resentment, happiness, and sorrow. It was as if a net was trying to capture Xiao Hua's gaze, but the moment it was captured, it freed Xiao Hua's gaze. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I hope that my thoughts and memories will go with the wind. Xiao Hua sighed. With another swipe of his hand, the space was covered by soil. He believed that it wouldn't be long before everything here became a part of the earth, and there would be no traces left. Oh! Just as Xiao Hua put away his sorrow and prepared to leave this place of sorrow, he suddenly raised his eyebrows. His divine sense swept towards a place on the ground like a tide. When he saw the scene in the distance clearly, he couldn't help but be stunned and actually said in surprise, Why is he here? Amidst his surprised voice, a green brilliance flashed around Xiao Hua's body, and his figure had already disappeared. Thousands of kilometers away, deep within the earth, there was an incomplete nascent soul spirit body that was flashing with a faint spirit light. It was escaping into the depths of the earth, and behind it were hundreds of weasel-like demonic beasts. Their bodies surged with dark green demonic energy as they followed closely behind. The nearest demon beast was only a few hundred feet away from him, and the demon aura and starlight it spat out from its mouth and nose had already landed on the nascent soul's back like a hook. Wasn't this nascent soul spirit body Xen Ping, who had been missing for a long time? At this moment, Xen Ping was as anxious as a stray dog. His physical body had been killed by the gathering moth beast at Yizhao Ridge, and only his nascent soul had escaped. Shui Mingzi originally wanted to save his nascent soul, but Xen Ping already knew Shui Mingzi's intentions. He didn't dare to trust Shui Mingzi, and he also didn't dare to trust Ao Zhantian. Thus, he could only choose to escape by himself. Unfortunately, Xen Ping wasn't a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, nor was he an astral projection cultivator. His nascent soul wasn't completely solid, and he only escaped for a few dozen kilometers before he discovered that his nascent soul was showing signs of dissipating. Thus, he didn't hesitate to escape into the ground. This was also the reason why Shui Mingzi, Ao Zhantian, and even He Xiong couldn't find him. When Xen Ping felt safe, he hurriedly used his divine ability to return to the hidden Immortal continent. However, after flying for half a day, Xen Ping discovered that something was wrong. It was already extremely dangerous for a human cultivator with a physical body to fly in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. How could he, a nascent soul spirit body, leave the Thousand Demons' sacred realm safely? In just half a day, Xen Ping's nascent soul spirit body had already been attacked by several groups of demonic beasts. However, they were only demonic beasts, and not demonic beasts. Xen Ping pondered for a moment and knew that he couldn't leave the Thousand Demons' sacred realm by himself. Thus, he thought of the other Daoist cultivators who came to the Thousand Demons' sacred realm to rescue Xiao Hua. This was because Xen Ping learned from Shui Mingzi that other than Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian, there might be other Daoist cultivators who had received Xiao Hua's favor. Thus, he wanted to try his luck and see if he could meet other humans who were as enthusiastic as Xiaohua. Or perhaps, he could meet a fellow Daoist he was familiar with. The Thousand Demons Sacred Realm was so huge that Xinping didn't know where to go. He could only follow the route he had discussed with Shui Mingzi and wander around the area, not daring to stray too far away. Xiaohua only paid attention to the surroundings and neglected the underground. In addition, Xinping was too careful, so he didn't discover any traces of Xinping. Later on, when he saw that he was getting closer to Bai Qingyu, Xinping naturally left the original route and went to look for other cultivators. Very coincidentally, Xinping encountered Prince Lan attacking Changyu. Seeing Prince Lan's savagery, how could Xinping dare to show his face? Once he had the chance, he immediately ran away. Afterward, before Xinping's luck arrived, Xiaohua had already unleashed his might. The entire Bai Qingyu was engulfed in the flames of war. Xinping, who had a nascent soul spirit body, suffered even more. He didn't dare to think about running into any human cultivators. He only wanted to escape from the chaotic heaven-earth origin chi. Xinping's luck was naturally bad. He had just escaped from the battle when he was immediately discovered by some demonic beasts. Although Xinping could kill some of the demonic beasts, there were countless demonic beasts in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. His nascent soul spirit body was constantly dissipating. The aura of the spirit body was the best food for demonic beasts. How could he escape from the pursuit of those savage demonic beasts? In just a day, Xinping's nascent soul spirit body was on the verge of collapse. His primordial spirit had also been devoured greatly. Feng Wu's ability to summon the power of the stars was truly a feast for all the demonic beasts in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. However, for Xinping, who had a nascent soul spirit body, it was tantamount to a monstrous calamity. Not to mention, his spirit body was even more devastated under the impact of the starlight beam. His damaged primordial spirit became increasingly blurry. He increasingly didn't know where he should escape to and how he should escape. Under the brilliance of the starlight beam, those demonic beasts were several times more excited than if they had eaten countless demonic herbs. Even if Xinping went deep underground, he still wouldn't be able to escape from their pursuit. Just like that, Xinping flew to the left side of Xiaohua. However, the moment Xiaohua discovered him, the weasel-like demonic beast spat out demonic aura. This demonic aura was equally powerful in this extraordinary night. It actually produced a hook-like brilliance of the starlight beam. When this brilliance landed, Xinping's nascent soul spirit body was pinned down. No matter how Xinping urged his nascent soul, he couldn't escape. Ayo! Seeing that the demonic beast in front of them had succeeded, the demonic beasts closest to them became even more excited. They let out a roar and spat out demonic aura, preparing to share the delicious food in their hands. Xinping, who was already on the verge of death, still had some instincts. After sensing the danger, he didn't hesitate at all. His nascent soul spat out a strand of silver blood. Within the blood, only a piece of the fan remained. With a schwa sound, his nascent soul spirit body was pulled away by the demonic aura of the demonic beast. The remaining 40% of his nascent soul spirit body escaped once again. Unfortunately, even so, Xinping only flew a few hundred feet before the demonic beast that had spat out demonic aura caught up. The demonic aura firmly sucked Xinping in. Chapter 44-32. Xinping, who was about to die, didn't have any extra consciousness. His spirit body was about to be devoured by the demon beasts. Suddenly, an incomparably powerful divine sense swept over. Before it even got close to Xinping, the demon beasts, who were extremely sensitive to danger, had already sensed it. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The demon beasts closest to Xinping didn't hesitate at all. They decisively abandoned Xinping's nascent soul spirit body and fled into the distance. The 100 or so demon beasts that were just about to approach also fled in all directions. Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless. After sweeping with his divine sense, He chased for a few kilometers before slowly retracting it. When his figure flashed and appeared beside Xinping, he hurriedly waved his hand. Xinping's spirit body, which was already abnormally thin, stopped dissipating and became still in the soil. How could this be? Xiaohua's gaze swept over and immediately knew that Xinping had already reached the point of no return. Even the nascent soul spirit body's eyes had already turned gray, without a trace of divine light. Obviously, the nascent soul spirit had almost completely disappeared. When Xiaohua turned into a python and saw Xinping, Xinping had already fled. But according to what Ao Zhantian said later, Xinping had actually reached a certain agreement with Shui Mingzi. Speaking of which, Xinping had already violated the oath that day. However, seeing Xinping's miserable end, it was hard for Xiaohua to have any thoughts of blaming him. Alas, forget it. Xiaohua sighed slightly and said, I just sent off an old friend, and now I have to send off another one. One was deeply affectionate, the other repaid kindness with enmity. But in the end, they both turned into nothingness and dust. Unfortunately, your nascent soul has already been shattered, and a lot of your soul has dissipated. Even if I wanted to take you into the netherworld, I can't. I only hope that after you enter the cycle of reincarnation, your soul will be complete, and you won't be an ungrateful person in the next life. Saying that, Xiaohua raised his hand and was about to remove the restriction, but at that moment, Xinping's nascent soul spirit body suddenly opened its eyes, as if it was the final radiance of the setting sun. When Xinping's gaze fell on Xiaohua's face, a divine light suddenly appeared in his eyes. Although Xinping opened his mouth, he seemed to be powerless and couldn't speak. Xiaohua saw guilt and regret in Xinping's eyes. He smiled and said, Fellow Daoist Xinping, I know what you want to say. Shui Mingzi had already been executed. Everything from before is already in the past. Although you had some ideas in your heart, you didn't put them into action. I won't hold a grudge against you. Furthermore, I'm grateful that you came to the Thousand Demons' sacred realm to save me. You don't have to think too much about it, just go in peace. The blood oath you made earlier is now invalid. I hope you can be a man of indomitable spirit in your next life. Joy appeared in Xinping's eyes when he heard this. His head that was only left with an outline nodded slightly, as if he was gratified that Xiaohua had forgiven him. However, this only lasted for a moment before the light in his eyes gradually dissipated. However, just as Xinping's spirit was about to dissipate, a look of excitement suddenly appeared on his face. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Fellow Daoist go in peace. Xiaohua nodded slightly and said, Unfortunately, your 3 souls and 6 spirits are already incomplete. This Xiao doesn't dare to help you transcend. Swish, swish. Just as Xiaohua was speaking, Xinping's remaining spiritual body suddenly combusted without any fire. It was also within this spiritual fire that Xinping used up all his strength to anxiously ask, Chang Yu is? Unfortunately, at this point, even if Xinping wanted to say the 4th word, he couldn't. With a flash of fire, everything turned into nothingness. Chang Yu? Xiaohua was stunned. His mind turned rapidly as he thought to himself, Isn't Chang Yu? Suddenly, Xiaohua was shocked. A golden light flashed between his eyebrows, and he was about to use the Buddhist 9 words divine ability. However, just as the golden runes gradually appeared, countless Buddhist chants rang out, and Xiaohua stopped. His eyes looked at the void as if he could see Xinping's dissipating soul. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he said, Forget it. Your soul is already incomplete. If I use the soul summoning technique now, I'm afraid it will affect your reincarnation. This Xiao cannot harm you for the sake of my own interests, even if the information you know is very important to this Xiao. After he finished speaking, Xiaohua's figure flashed, and he escaped from the ground. After rushing out of the ground, he found a mountain peak and sat down cross-legged. He rubbed his chin with his hand and looked at the starlight in the sky. He thought to himself, why did Xinping suddenly mention Chang Yu before he died? What did the words Chang Yu sure mean? When Xinping died, he didn't meet with Chang Yu. He didn't know that Chang Yu had perished together with the demonic beasts. The information he knew must be from the hidden Immortal mainland. If it was good news, Xianping wouldn't have sent a voice transmission. It could only be bad news. Could it be Changyu is a traitor? Could it be that Changyu had colluded with Shui Mingzi in the soaring Dragon Mountain range? Did Xianping find out? Shui Mingzi was prepared to meet with Changyu, but who knew that this Xiao would appear, and Changyu wouldn't have the chance to meet with Shui Mingzi? Or maybe Changyu has colluded with the Grand Mist Ancestors' force. Did Xianping find out? Or did Changyu leak my soaring Dragon Mountain range's disciples' whereabouts to the Thousand Demons' sacred land? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's eyes narrowed. He shook his head slightly and muttered to himself, "You may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature." Back then, this Xiao treated Changyu well and gave him cultivation conditions that were not inferior to others. Did he really think that this Xiao would be suppressed by Qingyu's Beast King and unable to escape? Was he so eager to jump out? Didn't he think that even if he jumped out, what could he do? He still has Xiongyi, Li Xiang, and Prince Lan before him. How could he control the Fortune Gate? Unless he killed 3 nascent Soul Realm senior brothers like the Southern Sea Dragon Palace's 4th Prince Ao Qian, only then could he. Thinking of Changyu's betrayal, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel heartache. He tried his best not to think about it, but for the Fortune Gate he had no choice but to think about it. When Xiaohua thought of this, he was suddenly startled and unconsciously stood up. Buzz. It didn't matter if he stood up, but the space within 100 miles to his left produced the sound of air exploding and the sound of thunder. Oh no. Xiaohua's eyes spun rapidly. If Changyu is such a scheming person, his best plan is not to come to the Thousand Demons' sacred land. It's best if he hides in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. He only needs to wait for the Fortune Gate's disciples to be killed, then he can claim to be the sect master in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Even if Xiongyi and Prince Lan return, they must be seriously injured. Wouldn't it be easier for him to make a move? Of course, we can't rule out the possibility of him colluding with Shui Mingzi on the way to Qingyu. A kind-hearted person would never think of others as his enemy. Therefore, in just a short moment, Xiaohua thought of an excellent excuse for Changyu. Of course, all of this was just a guess. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and called Daoist Wu out from the space. The moment Daoist Wu landed in the air, he immediately raised his head and shouted, "Damn it, isn't Daoist Feng Wu too arrogant? What is he doing? Is he trying to alarm the entire Thousand Demons' sacred land? A great saint of the demonic race has entered the Great Holy Hall. Is he trying to call Immortal Emperor Gochen and Vairocana, revered Buddha, over to observe the ceremony? I don't think this is what he wants." Xiaohua replied indifferently, not to mention that this might be the effect of the Great Holy Hall. The heavenly phoenix is in his body. It's not something he can decide. Daoist Feng seems a little depressed. Daoist Wu looked at Xiaohua and said, "Daoist Feng has just defeated the Thousand Demons' sacred land's old ancestor. You should be in high spirits." "That's nothing." Xiaohua smiled bitterly. While pondering, he told Daoist Wu the whole story. See. Daoist Wu instantly understood. He sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "Even your own disciple has become like this? I only have suspicions. I can't be sure, so I asked Daoist Feng to come over and take a look." Xiaohua replied, "If Daoist Wenchu is here, he would be the most suitable." Daoist Wu nodded. "In that case, I will reluctantly accept." Daoist Feng, conceal yourself first. As Xiaohua spoke, he took out the Kunlun mirror and pulled Xiongyi out of the Shenhua continent with his mind. Xiongyi was still sitting cross-legged as if he was regulating his breathing. Xiaohua didn't disturb him and just stood at the side and watched quietly. In just a moment, Xiongyi felt that something was wrong. The quintessential essence in his body flowed rapidly. He was on guard and immediately opened his eyes. "Master?" Xiongyi only understood when he saw Xiaohua standing beside him. He raised his head and looked around in surprise. He said anxiously, "Is this the Star Moon Palace?" Xiaohua's tone was a little indifferent as he replied, "This is still the Thousand Demons' sacred land. It's only about 1,000 miles away from Baiqingyu. Xiongyi heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Did I say that? It's just a moment. How could I have arrived? Unless the time in the Kunlun immortal realm is different from the 3 continents." As he spoke, Xiongyi looked at the stars and moon in the sky in surprise and asked curiously, "Master, what's going on? Why is the 1,000 Demons' sacred land's starry sky different from the hidden immortal continent? Is it day or night?" "It's night." Xiaohua's tone was still indifferent. "It's just that the 7 stars great saint of the 1,000 Demons' sacred land has entered the great sage hall and attracted the congratulations of 10,000 stars." Hiss! Xiongyi was shocked. 7 stars great saint? Could it be that he's even more powerful than that golden-winged great rock? "If I'm not wrong, he should be," Xiaohua replied. "Master, then, should we hurry to the Star Moon Palace?" Xiongyi was shocked when he heard that a 7 stars great saint who was even more powerful than the number 1 great saint of the demon race, the golden-winged great rock, had appeared. He hurriedly suggested tactfully. Xiaohua glanced at Xiongyi and replied, "There's no need for that. This 7 stars great saint and I are close friends. He definitely won't make things difficult for me." Really? Xiongyi was overjoyed and said with a smile, "Master has really surprised me. After not seeing each other for 200 years, it's really, 200 years can change a person's state of mind, 200 years can also change a person's strength, but 200 years can't change a person's nature." Xiaohua looked at the starry sky and sighed word by word. Chapter 44-33. Only until here did Xiongyi suddenly discover that Xiaohua's tone was different. He was startled in his heart and hurriedly knelt down and said, "Master, this disciple has failed Master's great trust. Nearly half of the Fortune Gate's disciples were killed. Disciple has let Master down." Xiaohua flicked his sleeves, not allowing Xiongyi to kneel. Instead, he said indifferently, "This matter has already passed. Master also does not intend to blame you all for this matter. Although more than half of our Fortune Gate's disciples were killed, Baiqingyu's demonic beast clans were almost annihilated, and the heaven-concealing ridge and ancient Bell Mountain were also taken over by our Fortune Gate. These disciples have already been avenged." Unfortunately, Xiongyi still didn't dare to get up. He still lowered his head and said, "Master, this disciple knows that you are blaming this disciple for not taking the lives of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's disciples seriously. Actually, disciple wanted to come to Baiqingyu alone that day, but disciple knew that with disciple's strength, it would be extremely difficult to rescue Master. Disciple could only rely on the strength of Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's disciples to have a sliver of hope to rescue Master. Of course, even if they managed to save their Master, the lives of these tens of thousands of disciples would definitely be left behind in Baiqingyu's hands. However, disciple has already made it clear to Master that disciple is not a good teacher, but I am definitely a good state preceptor. Disciple is willing to bear the infamy to save Master. After all, his Master's life was more valuable than the lives of tens of thousands of disciples in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. With a Master, he could create a new Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, or even 2 or 3 new Soaring Dragon Mountain Ranges. But without Master, this Soaring Dragon Mountain Range would not last for long. Therefore, at the Fortune Dao Palace, the disciples did not hesitate to fall out with them. They insisted that the disciples of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range risk their lives to save Master. This is disciple's fault. Disciple is no longer qualified to manage the Fortune Gate's affairs. Disciple is willing to fulfill his filial piety in front of Master and atone for the deaths of the tens of thousands of disciples. Xiaohua silently looked at Xiongyi. After listening to his words, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Xiaohua was originally soft-hearted and not good at planning, so he was not the first choice to be the sect leader. In Huang Xiaolong's opinion, he would rather give up his life than let several tens of thousands of Fortune Gate disciples save him. However, what Xiongyi said was correct. After all, as the leader of a sect, he had to be far-sighted, decisive, and even decisive. This is what Xiaohua lacks. And the Xiongyi in front of him was precisely such a talent. He knew how important Xiaohua was. For the sake of the Fortune Gate's future, Xiaohua was willing to sacrifice tens of thousands of soaring Dragon Mountain Range's disciples. This action could be considered cold-blooded and callous, but it was also where Xiongyi stood out from the crowd. It was an extremely calm and wise choice. And now, seeing that Xiaohua's tone was unkind, Xiongyi had already keenly sensed Xiaohua's displeasure. He knew that he might have chosen to go against Xiaohua's benevolence because of this. Without waiting for Xiaohua to say anything, he immediately took the initiative to admit his guilt. However, Xiongyi still thought too much. Xiaohua didn't think about it at all. If it wasn't for Xiongyi's reminder, he really didn't know that Xiongyi was under so much pressure. Disciple. Xiaohua thinks for a moment and says, Master knows that I am not a qualified sect leader. Not good at the trifling matters of the sect, not good at the development of the sect, and not good at winning over people's hearts. Therefore, when I met you, I said that I would give you a chance to display your talents. I wanted to let the sect that I had created flourish in your hands. Your choice? I have no way to judge it. From the bottom of my heart, Master does not agree. Master feels that everyone's life is equally important, and there should be no distinction between importance and importance. But in reality, what you did was correct. If it wasn't for me, there would be no soaring Dragon Mountain Range's Fortune Gate, and there wouldn't be the current Fortune Gate's disciples. You used the lives of tens of thousands of disciples in exchange for my life. There is nothing wrong with that. Therefore, disciple, you can rest assured that the Fortune Gate will still be yours in the future. Not only will you have to deal with the Fortune Gate's affairs, Master will also let you do. Before Xiaohua could finish, Xiongyi hurriedly interjected, Master, you think too highly of disciple. Not to mention senior brothers Xiansong Zi and Daoist Master Jing Ting, even junior brothers Lu Yi, Fuji Wen, and the others' cultivations are much higher than disciples. How can disciple shoulder such a heavy responsibility? Strength is strength, ability is ability. Not every Grand Ascension Stage cultivator is a good sect leader. Not every sect leader has to have an extremely high cultivation base. Xiaohua's mood improved, and he smiled. However, your words have reminded Master that you have to think about how to develop the Fortune Gate in the future for Master. Every time Master thinks about it, it gives Master a headache. Xiongyi smiled bitterly. Master, it's not that disciple doesn't want to think about it, but the Fortune Gate's development is too fast. Disciple was still thinking about how to arrange for those golden core disciples when Master suddenly sent over 200,000 sixth-grade disciples, much stronger than disciple. Disciple was caught unprepared. Moreover, disciple had never thought that our Dao Gate could be established on the hidden Immortal mainland and become such a big sect. Disciple, don't worry, take your time to think. We have time, we have strength, and there will be opportunities in the future. Xiaohua comforted, as long as what you do is beneficial to the Fortune Gate, Master will support you. Then, Xiongyi was relieved when he heard that. Seeing that Xiaohua's mood had improved, he asked tentatively, Master, your words just now, what did you mean? I'm sure you already know what I told Ao Zhantian earlier. Back then, I saved many Daoist sect cultivators on the Yaotai Mountain. Xiaohua thought for a moment when he saw Xiongyi's reaction. Xiaohua roughly explained the situation to Xiongyi before saying, however, I didn't expect that these cultivators would actually jump out at the first sign of trouble and try to benefit from it. So that's how it is. Xiongyi laughed and said, didn't Master say before? A good sect leader doesn't necessarily have a good cultivation. In fact, in terms of winning people's hearts and expanding one's influence, one doesn't necessarily have to rely on absolute strength. Although Master's strength is powerful, it can only convince people on the surface, but not in their hearts. Once something happens to Master, some people will definitely jump out. Only a small portion of people are loyal, and the majority can only be used. Even if Master wants to use these forces, Master still has to use methods. Using kindness and coercion is one way, and using the advantages and disadvantages is another way. Master probably doesn't care about these methods. However, Master, you should be happy as well. According to senior brother Ao Zhantian, there are many Dao sect cultivators who are disloyal, but not many of them are willing to do so. There are many Dao sect cultivators, and even the dragon tribe and demon tribe cultivators who have come to rescue Master. Alas, cultivation is still easier. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "These scheming things are too tiring. Master, you're a transcendent being, so you don't have to worry so much. Disciple and the others are different, and we can't not consider so many things." Xiongyi smiled bitterly. Xiaohua smiled and asked again, "Disciple, you said that the Fortune Gate Palace has different opinions about coming to the Thousand Demons' sacred realm to rescue Master?" Xiongyi didn't hide it and nodded and said, "Yes. Some junior brothers think that the foundation of the soaring Dragon Mountain range is important, and even if we go to Baiqingyu, we'll just be throwing our lives away, so they don't want the soaring Dragon Mountain range disciples to come and rescue us." At this point, Xiongyi hurriedly explained, "Of course, this idea is not wrong. After all, senior brother Ao Zhantian, Zhang Daoren, esteemed Sun Kong, and senior Zhai Xingzi all have the same idea. They want to rely on their own strength and not give up all their strength. Does Chang Yu also have the same idea?" Xiaohua couldn't help but ask. Xiongyi answered without hesitation, "Junior brother Chang Yu is the one who supports his disciples the most. If it weren't for the fact that his disciples are all weak, he would have brought all of them." "Then what about the disciples he brought?" Xiaohua asked. "Most of the disciples he brought are senior brother Li Xiang's." Xiongyi explained, "Although he isn't particularly familiar with these disciples, they are still much stronger than his own disciples. It's a pity that junior brother Chang Yu was unlucky and didn't get to meet Master. Disciple, can you tell me about the Fortune Gate Palace's situation and the soaring Dragon Mountain range to Baiqingyu?" Xiaohua's expression didn't change, and he asked again. "Of course." Xiongyi was a little suspicious, and he smiled apologetically. "However, Master, disciple might not remember clearly. It's best to ask senior brother Li Xiang and junior brother Lon to fill in the gaps." "No matter." Xiaohua smiled. "These are all things of the past. Go ahead and tell me. Master will ask them in the future." "That's good." Xiongyi nodded and recounted everything. When he finished, Xiaohua nodded and said, "It's not easy for all of you. It's not wrong for everyone to make different choices. Go back to the Kunlun Immortal realm and cultivate well. Oh, don't forget, help Master think about how to develop the Fortune Gate in the future. In the future, Master will rely on your ability to bring the Fortune Gate to greater heights." "Yes, Master." Xiongyi bowed respectfully and was immediately sent into the Shenhua continent by Xiaohua. "Fellow Daoist Wu, how is it?" Xiaohua put away the Kunlun mirror and looked at the side where Xiongyi was previously standing. Daoist Wu's figure appeared. He looked at Xiaohua and said, "There are no changes in the soul. If I'm not mistaken, what Xiongyi said is the truth. Of course, human nature is the most complicated thing in the world. I can't guarantee that all soul techniques will succeed. If what Xiongyi said is true, then I's suspicion of Chang Yu was wrong." Xiaohua's face turned cold. "Then there's only one possibility left. Xenping didn't recognize Chang Yu before, and Chang Yu didn't collude with Xue Mingzi. Xenping had seen Chang Yu in his nascent soul state after abandoning his physical body. If Chang Yu didn't see difficulties on the way to Baiqingyu and changed his mind, then there's something wrong with Chang Yu's death. So complicated." Daoist Wu was puzzled. "No wonder people's hearts are unpredictable. Fellow Daoist, you should ask fellow Daoist Wen Chu to come over and give you advice. I's better off cultivating." Chapter 44-34. All right. Xiaohua laughed. "Go ahead, fellow Daoist. Everything will come to light one day. Let's wait and see." Just as Daoist which was about to leave, Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and asked Daoist which in a low voice. Daoist which frowned and left after a few answers. "Alas, man's ego is always higher than the sky." Xiaohua sighed as he watched Daoist which disappear. If not for this ego, how could there be cultivators among the human race? If not for this ego, how could there be immortals in this world? But it's also because of this ego that there are too many disturbances, too much chaos, and too much suffering in this world. After saying that, Xiaohua fell silent for a moment and took out the Kunlun mirror. As the light beam flashed, Ao Sheng was pulled out from the Shenhua continent. Needless to say, Ao Sheng was even more surprised by the starlight in the sky. However, Xiaohua was not in a good mood and ignored him. After Ao Sheng finished muttering and saw that Xiaohua did not say anything, he immediately lowered his head and asked cautiously, "Dragon Master Xiao, why did you call me out?" "I've already promised you that I'll bring you out to experience and improve your strength." Xiaohua glanced at Ao Sheng, who had finally calmed down, and said, "Actually, the experience is secondary. The most important thing is, my good friend Daoist Yun has some opportunities. This opportunity has something to do with you. Daoist Yun wants to return some of this opportunity to you." Ao Sheng was confused and asked curiously, "Dragon Master Xiao, what you're saying? I don't seem to understand." "Huh, it doesn't matter if you understand now." A rare smile appeared on Xiaohua's face. "You all took the risk to come to the Thousand Demons' sacred realm to rescue me. I must repay this kindness. As for what Daoist Yun gave you, you may not know now, and you may not know in the future. But when you do know, just think about what I said today." "Yes, Dragon Master Xiao." Ao Sheng nodded and said respectfully, "I understand. Dragon Master Xiao's kindness to me, and even to the dragon race, will be engraved in my heart." Xiaohua nodded and activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand. Under the light, Daoist Yun flew out of the space. After hearing Xiaohua's voice transmission, Daoist Yun shook his head and said, "Daoist, isn't Ao Sheng going to the Star Moon Palace with us? If he were to enter the Kunlun Immortal realm to cultivate now, he would probably fall into a deep sleep first. Then he would miss out on the opportunity to enter the Star Moon Palace." "Yun, it's Daoist Yun," he said, patted his forehead. "I've been too hasty. I've forgotten about the Star Moon Palace." Ao Sheng looked at Xiaohua and did not dare to say anything. Star Moon Palace was a matter of great importance. How could Xiaohua forget about it? Daoist, Daoist Yun, Daoist, Daoist, Daoist B. Daoist, Daoist to Dao, Daoist, Daoist to him to break, Daoist, 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 Daoist forget, you, Daoist is Daoist. Daoist you. I'll always be the old hen who protects her children. Xiaohua said self-deprecatingly, "Even if I become an immortal, I'm afraid these disciples will still be in my heart, let alone a Mahayana. This is a blessing for us disciples." Ao Sheng finally understood something and said respectfully, "This disciple will be like Xiao Longshi and continue this love." "How good." Xiaohua laughed and clapped his hands. "To be able to hear the word, love, from the mouth of a dragon, I've reaped the rewards of my efforts. If that's the case, we'll talk about this later. Daoist, please go back." "Daoist." Daoist Yun suggested again, "It will take some time to reach the Star Moon Palace. Why don't I teach Ao Sheng some secret techniques of the dragon race? It can also lay a foundation for his future cultivation." "I'll leave this to you, Daoist," Xiaohua said with a smile. "Actually, Dragon Master should be yours." Daoist Yun nodded. "Daoist, please open a mystic realm in Kunlun Immortal Realm so that Ao Sheng can cultivate in it." Xiaohua understood what Daoist Yun meant. He shook the Kunlun mirror and sent Daoist Yun and Ao Sheng to a void above Shenhua continent, where the two dragons could do whatever they wanted. As Daoist sorcerer had yet to return, Xiaohua simply brought Blackie and Goldie out of the void and talked to them while waiting. Although Goldie had already told Xiaohua about his experience in the past 200 years, it was still too simple. Now that there was no one else around, Goldie's chatterbox was opened again, jumping up and down on Xiaohua's body while talking. Blackie stood obediently on one of Xiaohua's shoulders, occasionally interrupting and correcting him, but most of the time, he just listened. Looking at the two cute little things with their own distinct characteristics, Xiaohua's heart was overflowing with fatherly love. He used his hand to touch the two little things' warm fur. Feeling the attachment of the two little things, he was deeply moved again. Others might not know how powerful Di Ting and the heaven-devouring beast were, but he knew them very well. Even though they were severely injured, they were still not something that a human Mahayana realm cultivator could handle. It was hard to imagine that these two powerful demon beasts looked like this when they were young. However, Xiaohua also understood that although Blackie and Goldie had the bloodlines of Di Ting and the heaven-devouring beast, they still had a long way to go before they could cultivate to the same level as them. The blood crystals Xiaohua obtained from the heaven-devouring beast and Di Ting were the starting point of this path. 4 hours later, Daoist sorcerer finally returned. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat when he saw Daoist sorcerer's slightly gloomy face. How was it? What did I get? Is I right? I can't tell if fellow Daoist's guess is correct or not. Daoist Wu replied indifferently, there's a restriction in the souls of Daoist Qing Su, Daoist Fan Tian, and the other Daoist cultivators. Although I can break it, I'm afraid of alerting them and messing up fellow Daoist arrangements, so I can't know the true intentions of the primordial chaos ancestor. I can't tell if these subordinates of the Grand Mist ancestor are sincere in helping the Fortune Gate or if they have ulterior motives. It's fine. Xiaohua's heart relaxed and he waved his hand. The truth will come out one day. If the Grand Mist ancestor doesn't have any ulterior motives and is sincere in helping the Fortune Gate, I will repay him generously. If he has ulterior motives, would I be afraid of him? Daoist sorcerer nodded and said, although I didn't find anything in the souls of Venerable Fan Tian and the others, I found the magic treasure that fellow Daoist gave to Chang Yu in Daoist Master Qing Su's spatial pouch. Oh? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and a cold smile appeared on his face. This is interesting. Could it be that Daoist Master Qing Su has something to do with Chang Yu's death? Xiaohua raised his head and looked at the sky, muttering to himself, but this magic treasure alone doesn't prove anything. Perhaps Daoist Master Qing Su picked it up on the road, or perhaps Daoist Master Qing Su met with danger together with Chang Yu and Prince Lan. Chang Yu sacrificed his life to protect Prince Lan, and the magic treasure was lost after he self-destructed. Daoist Master Qing Su picked up the magic treasure and didn't return it to Prince Lan. What if there is another magic treasure? Daoist sorcerer raised his hand and there was a ball of green light in his palm. Inside the ball of light, there was a faint soul that looked like a small person sleeping peacefully. Xiaohua was shocked. When he saw that the small person inside was Chang Yu, he was wild with joy. His mind rolled, and Chang Yu's soul that was about to disappear immediately fell into it. Xiaohua looked at it and didn't dare to be negligent. He released the netherworld origin power again and carefully sent this soul into the inside of the space. Just like Fairy Jing's soul, it was placed at the root of the netherworld fruit tree. After everything was done, Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at Daoist sorcerer in bewilderment and said, didn't Chang Yu self-destruct his nascent soul? Where did you get his soul? Even if there is a primordial spirit imprint in his magic treasure, that shouldn't be enough to preserve his 3 souls and 6 spirits, right? Ha! Daoist sorcerer laughed and said, speaking of this, you should thank I properly. Tell me in detail, Daoist sorcerer. Xiaohua still didn't understand. Daoist sorcerer explained, do you still remember when you took Chang Yu as your disciple under Yaotai Mountain? Of course. Xiaohua thought for a moment and still didn't understand. What's so strange about it? What does this have to do with you? That day, you discovered that Chang Yu's cultivation method was changed by a Confucian cultivator, right? Xiaohua nodded matter-of-factly. At that time, I changed the cultivation method and passed it to him. At this point, Xiaohua slapped his forehead and came to a realization. That's right, that cultivation method wasn't changed by I myself. It was changed by Daoist Thunderbolt. The cultivation method was changed by Daoist Thunderbolt, but the original cultivation method had a heavy impact on the Dao Foundation. If he didn't cultivate it again, it was impossible to reach the body integration realm. Daoist Thunderbolt thought for a long time and felt that changing the Dao Sex Dharma spells only treated the symptoms but not the root cause. Therefore, he asked I to change it, hoping that the soul spell could solve the root cause. I added some soul cultivation content in this cultivation method. Oh, this soul cultivation content is similar to the remnant copy of the primordial spirit that Daoist Thunderbolt obtained before. Chang Yu was probably very lucky. When he cultivated the cultivation method, he was proficient in this part of the soul spell. When he sacrificially refined the Dharma treasure, he used this part of the divine ability and placed a part of his primordial spirit in his natal Dharma treasure. Therefore, when Chang Yu self-destructed, he must have thought of hiding his primordial spirit in his natal Dharma treasure. Daoist sorcerer explained, of course, Chang Yu's half-baked method of placing his primordial spirit was not enough to preserve his primordial spirit. However, the Dharma treasure that Daoist Thunderbolt gave him was not ordinary. It was an original Dharma treasure in Daoist Thunderbolt space. There was another universe inside that could temporarily preserve his primordial spirit. In addition, Chang Yu died not long ago, so Daoist Ching Su didn't have time to sacrifice himself. This allowed Chang Yu's 3 souls and 6 spirits to be preserved. It was extremely beneficial for many demons to break through their bottlenecks. This starlight banquet directly caused the overall strength of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm to increase. Xiaohua did not care about this star moon banquet. He knew in his heart that no matter how much the demon race of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm benefited, the biggest winner was still Feng Wu of the Great Sage Temple. He only flew towards the east of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm to search for traces of the Bright Moon Palace. Although Ying Bo of the Continuous Merchant Alliance had received Dou Shanjun's message and even received some information about Zhai Xinglu, the Continuous Merchant Alliance was too inexperienced after all. They did not know the specific time and location of the Star Moon Palace's appearance. What made Xiaohua even more puzzled was that there were some Zhai Xinglu in the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. However, for some reason, these Zhai Xinglu had all disappeared in the past 100 years. The Continuous Merchant Alliance's ability was not enough to find the reason for the disappearance. However, Xiaohua did not particularly care. After all, other than the demon race, there were only humans who coveted the opportunities of the Star Moon Palace. As long as he went to the east of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm and saw a human, wouldn't he just need to ask around and find out? Xiaohua did not believe that with his status as a human Mahayana realm cultivator, he could not even find out this information. Moreover, Xiaohua believed that Zhai Xinglu would have some arrangements in the east of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Dou Shanjun alone could give the jade eyes to Ying Bo in advance. How could he not have predicted his arrival? Unfortunately, Xiaohua still underestimated the vastness of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. He had been flying towards the east for dozens of days and saw the demon realms below him one after another. Some were continuous mountains, some were crisscrossing paths, some were deep ravines, and some were filled with lakes. He did not see anything special. He also encountered many demon races. There were great demons, demon kings, sun devourer, and heaven devourer. However, these demon races did not know about the Star Moon Palace, nor did they know where Zhai Xinglu was. On this day, they arrived at another place with water. This swamp was slightly different from what Xiaohua had seen previously. Not only was this swamp huge, but even though he did not release his divine thought, he could not see the edge of this swamp. Moreover, there were many rivers on the left side of the swamp. These rivers were like jade ribbons that wrapped around the swamp. Many water races lived in these rivers. Occasionally, there would be some water races that had gained sentience and would fight in groups. Looking at the many rivers, he saw that they all originated from a mountain range thousands of miles away from the swamp. This mountain range was also very tall. The mountain peaks that stretched for thousands of miles were covered in white snow. Many thin streams were formed from the mountain range and slowly flowed down. When they converged into a river, they flowed through the plains at the foot of the mountain and became a majestic river. These hundreds of thousands of rivers strangely surrounded the entire swamp, and the river water flowed into it continuously. There were many islands in the swamp. Some were several acres in size, while others were several miles in size. The islands were either rugged like rocks or lush like forests. Occasionally, there were flocks of water birds flying above the swamp. There were also schools of fish swimming on the surface of the water. Although there wasn't the fragrance of fish and rice, Xiaohua couldn't help but slow down when his gaze swept across the lake and mountain scenery. However, just as Xiaohua flew into the swamp, between the swamp and the snowy mountain range in the distance, boom boom! A series of explosions suddenly sounded. Then, he saw a light that soared into the sky, illuminating the already dim sky. The Thousand Demons' sacred realm was not like the hidden immortal continent, nor was it like the Western Paradise. Ordinary fights between the demon race could be found everywhere. During the period when Feng Wu attracted the power of 10,000 stars, all the demon race were focused on absorbing the power of the stars and did not have time to fight. Then, Xiaohua flew in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Other than the beautiful scenery, what he saw was bloody fights. Compared to the time when Xiaohua followed Shui Mingzi and the others to Bai Qingyu, they encountered a lot more killing. Xiaohua didn't pay any attention to the fights between the demon race unless he saw that a demon race member really wanted to perish together with him. Only then would Xiaohua release his aura to disperse the demon race member. The rest would just fly past him. However, when this light landed in Xiaohua's eyes, it was so familiar. Xiaohua could not help but chuckle. Previously, I was talking to Zhai Xingzi about the 4 joys of a Confucian cultivator's life. Today, I met an old friend in a foreign land. It's really interesting. However, when he released his divine sense and saw the situation in the distance, he could not help but be stunned again. He almost said to himself in surprise, "Oh? How could she be here?" Thousands of miles away, it was where several rivers intersected. These rivers were like ancient trees in a dense forest, entangled together. In the several hundred acres of water area, there were dozens of tributaries that sometimes flowed to the west and sometimes to the north. It was impossible to distinguish which tributary flew out from which river. In the sky above this water area, there were 3 balls of holy light that kept churning. Among these 3 balls of light, there were 2 big ones and 1 small one. The big one was several hundred zhang in size, and the small one was only several hundred zhang in size. Regardless of the size, these balls of light were different from the light of the moon and stars. They were abnormally pure. Moreover, every strand of light from these balls of light would send out strands of awe-inspiring qi in the air. A kind of feeling that made one's heart calm involuntarily arose. Looking inside the balls of light, there were 3 light beasts with dragon heads, qilin bodies, cow hooves, and lion-like tails. Weren't they the ones Xiaohua met in the Bronze Pillar country in his early years? The male and female light beasts in the balls of light were no different from before. The light beast's cub was 1 size bigger. Below their feet, there were many clouds floating in the air. These clouds changed from time to time. Gold rui, silver rui, dragon balls, and gold ingots appeared as if they were real, appearing and disappearing in the sky. At this time, the 3 light beasts were standing in the air and roaring. Although the pure brilliance made one feel at ease, the brilliance was like a flame rolling in the sky, revealing the anger of the 3 light beasts. Several li in front of the light beasts' heads, there was a hawk owl thousands of zhang in size, flapping its wings and coldly looking at them. Wasn't this the venerable Master 9 Firmaments that Xiaohua met that day? However, at this time, venerable Master 9 Firmaments had already transformed into a hawk owl. The hawk owl's body was huge, and its feathers were like iron. Waves of demonic qi overflowed from the gaps of its feathers, spreading in all directions. The faint power of the moon and stars also flashed around the hawk owl's body. It was indescribably valiant, and it was definitely not the appearance Xiaohua saw that day. Below the hawk owl, above the water, there was a catfish thousands of zhang in size. It also emitted a dense demonic qi, twisting its huge demonic body at low altitude. The surface of the catfish's body was not covered with ordinary scales. As its demonic body swayed, waves of ripples flowed on the surface of its body. Occasionally, the demonic qi would disperse, and a layer of glossy and sinister black light would be reflected in the dusk along with the ripples. Moreover, when the catfish flapped its huge tail, there was a faint rumbling sound at low altitude. The water below the catfish's body also had waves of several zhang in size. Although there were only 3 light beasts, the hawk owl and the catfish were not the only ones. Behind the 2 demonic beasts, there were thousands of flying demonic beasts and water demonic beasts, holding various demonic artifacts in their hands. They rode demonic clouds and scattered in the air and water. Their gazes all fell on the light beasts, and there was no fear in their eyes. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.